Hello, kids. Welcome in. It is the Matt Murphy Radio Show, underway for another day on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Man, oh man, happy to have you with us. I don't know what I was about to say there. I have no idea. It started with a CL, though. I don't.
Closing time, baby.
Oh,
Let's go outside.
I wish it was. Chamber of Commerce Day, man. I mean, that's what they say, and I'll say it too. It's gorgeous outside. I don't know why it's 73 degrees on February the 3rd, but it is. So I suppose we take it as we can get it. These are the days where I would love to take Ken Weaver, Chris Webber, Matt Murphy, and all of you up to the roof. Yeah. We just do a show from the roof.
Ooh, that sounds like fun.
That'd be nice. I did. I covered the eclipse from the roof.
Yep.
Last year.
Yep.
That was a lot of fun. A lot of stuff up there.
Yeah, what's up there?
A lot of old satellite dishes, Ken Weaver. There's several of those, and there's a couple of 5-gallon buckets.
Yeah.
And oddly, there's a ladder.
That helped you get down.
6-foot standing ladder that I assume was taken up there at some point to repair the satellite dishes that no longer are operable.
Right. They just said, we'll just leave it up here.
Isn't it fascinating that in our lifetimes, I don't want to get off on a tangent here or squirrel myself. Squirrel. Remember when the first satellite dishes came out and the incredible technology that was, and they were 100. I mean, I'm not talking radio, commercial dishes. I'm talking home satellite dishes.
Yes.
And
I
everybody.
had one.
Did you guys have one?
Yeah,
We
like
had
the
one
big
out.
8-foot or whatever it was. It was a black mesh dish, and it moved.
Nice.
Ours was big and white. I mean, it was a mesh.
Wow.
It was just, but same concept is that and you could, if you wanted to change channels, and the dish, big movable dish.
And if it came a big storm, then it would get out of alignment, and you'd have to go out there and adjust it to get it to tune back in right.
And then that's when I realized that at the time I had a stepfather briefly in my line. I realized that he had the Playboy channel.
Oh,
I found that out independently, and I think that's when I found out that the dish moved, and that like they could tell or something. I mean, I don't know what happened, but I was queried as to my.
Why's that dish pointing in that direction?
Yeah, right. What satellite are we on there? Oh, that's right.
The Playboy channel.
He did. He had the Playboy channel.
The best thing about those
Big
were
deal.
you could get the raw network news feeds. So, like, I remember as a kid watching, and I don't remember what the reporter was, but he was doing a stand-up, and it was the raw feed being sent back to the network. So it was just him going, blah, 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 waiting for them to say, you're on. It was entertaining.
I say this with love in my heart. When you did that, I pictured Brian Wilson doing that. Blah, blah, blah,
You know,
blah.
it may have been Brian Wilson for all I know. I do not recall. But yeah, he was fixing his hair,
Right,
and
you know, making sure you don't have, doing the old Texas Kleenex so you don't have a snot, anything in there, and oh yeah,
yep, that was a lot of fun.
Buttiga, puttiga. You guys ready? You guys ready? Oh yeah. Do you have the cow in the shot? We need the cow in the shot.
Yep, that's what it was like.
This is a bovine. It's the farm report. Anyway, yes. So I do remember those things. Those are still up there. Now all of that technology is here.
Yeah.
In our phone.
Right there,
Right
dude.
in our phone.
Yep.
Every bit of it.
Yep.
Pretty fast. And probably going into our bodies and giving us all cancer. So
well.
there's your positive outlook of the day on the Matt
What do you
Murphy
want to do?
Show.
Live forever?
Nah. I mean, I'd like to live a couple more years, but not forever.
Yeah, I think a couple of more years.
It'd get boring living forever, especially if you're living the same day over and over again. I watched annual tradition in the Murphy compound, watched Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
I love that movie.
It's a good one. I haven't seen it in several years, though.
Absolutely love that flick. And, have done way too much investing time reading about the time traveler aspect. And Ken, do you know Groundhog Day? Have you seen it?
I have seen it, yes.
So they asked the director if he ever did the math, and people have actually done the math, how long Bill Murray stayed in that time loop.
Mm-hmm.
And they did it based on what he learned to do. Like, he learned to ice sculpt. Well, that takes time.
Right.
Yep.
He learned to play the piano. That takes time.
Very well.
Very well.
Yeah.
He learned to speak, I think, French or Italian. I mean, that takes time. And you add all of those things up, and the estimation is like he spent 9,000 years.
Yeah, that's what I've heard, too. Yeah.
Wow.
In that time loop. And he had to create the perfect day. But I don't want to ruin it if you've not seen it, but he's got to get Andy McDowell in bed with him. Well, no, I take that back. I take that back. No, that's wrong. Got to get her to fall. He's got to do it honestly. He's got to.
That's right.
Get her to fall in love with him.
He's got to court her.
That's right.
He's got to call on her.
Honestly, and no, but oh my goodness, can you imagine the frustration? I'm fascinated by this. The frustration of you're having the perfect day, and then at some point at like 9 o'clock at night, you say one thing and it screws it all up, and then you got to start it all over again. Ah, boy, oh boy. Anyway, you guys dodged a bullet on the Groundhog Day front, and I'm just going to go ahead and tell you. I know that in the afternoon time slot, I've never done this, and I will have to wait until next year. I'm proud to note that next year, Groundhog Day is on a Monday, so we'll enjoy it together.
Oh, boy.
It is an annual tradition of the Matt Murphy. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Rise and shine, campers, and better get your booties because it's cold out there today. It's cold out there every day. What is this, Miami Beach? Oh, I can almost do the whole thing. I've done this so long. So it is an annual tradition on Groundhog Day. Ken, you have to participate in this. If we're all here next year, we got to do this together. Okay. We're in this together. This is what we do. And I'm just going to pull the curtain back a little bit because we were not able to do it this year. On Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
If you've ever seen the movie, you know he wakes up at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
And those two DJs are talking over that song that Weber just played. I Got You, Babe.
Yeah.
And they're all rise and shine, campers, and you better put on your booties because it's cold out there today. Oh, it's cold out there every day. What is this, Miami Beach? Well, not hardly, but, we got that blizzard thing. That blizzard thing. I can almost do it. Anyway.
That's scary.
So every year for every break, we come back with that bumper, and we do those lines.
All right.
Every time.
I'm all about it.
And it's amazing to watch the psychology of the audience turn against you.
Well, just wait till you see your producer turn against you.
Because at first, you do it, and it's Groundhog's Day, and people say, oh, that's funny, he's doing the Groundhog Day thing. And then you do it twice, and they go, oh, that's cute, Murphy did it again. Yep. And then you do it like the third time. By about the 9th time that you do it, the audience turns on you.
Yeah.
And they're like, would you, for the love, stop playing that song? And it's so fun. It's so fun. And we'll have to do it next year because Groundhog Day was on a Sunday. So I'm sad to say. It is Monday. It is February 3rd. It is Locks for Trump Day 338. For that length of time, I've been growing out my hair in anticipation originally, now in celebration of the 47th President of the United States of America. It's episode 741 of our gatherings together. Thank you for all of you who consume us wherever you do, 99.7 on the FM dial. You can also hit us up on any place you download music or news or entertainment or podcast, whatever audio or video feed, really, you're downloading from the intraweb. If you type in Supertalk 99.7 WTN, you can find us that way. You can also find us on the television side of things. That's right. Supertalk TV is up and running better than ever with the brand new studio, and they made some improvements over the weekend. Kudos to the engineering staff, Ian and Mike and the rest of the crew. There were improvements were made. Further soundproofing were put into the studio. There were a couple of, I think we arranged things a little bit differently. I'm approving. I mean, not that they ask, but I'm approving of all of these things. Anyway, you can watch us on Supertalk TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. That's YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. Like and subscribe. Would you do? I mean, it's no skin off your nose. All you have to do is just hit the little thumbs up thing or hit the subscribe button, and there you go.
Doesn't cost a thing.
Does not cost you a penny. A moment of your time, just a moment of your time. That's all we're asking on Supertalk TV side. Like and subscribe us, and thank you to U.S. Pest for providing the television side of the proceedings and bringing you every hour of the Matt Murphy Show on Supertalk 99.7 WTN. Now, while we're on the subject of Groundhog Day, and I promise you, at 3:35 today, you're going to get your belly full of tariffs. You're going to have a belly full of tariffs. Your belly will be as full of tariffs as my belly was of chili on Saturday afternoon around this same time, because I judged a chili cook-off at the Rudder, which was fabulous.
How much did you have to eat?
Well, I mean, there were 23 entries, Ken. 23. Have you ever judged anything like that?
No.
It's hard because you know that you've got 23 chilies to sample, right?
Yes.
And so, I mean, you're eating a small amount, and but it adds up anyway. But you're doing a little like fruit cup, and you put it just like a little 2 scoops in there, and you just sample it. You're just sampling.
Okay.
You're not eating like a big bowl.
I thought they were like you're just sitting there, and they're just bringing a bowl by.
Just a big old pot of chili. Eat up, Murphy. There's more coming. 23. I felt bad for and tell me if this makes sense to you, Ken. I felt bad for the white chili people.
Oh, yeah?
And here's why. Because there's like 3 of the 23 entries made a white chili. If you know what that is, it's just a chicken base.
Yeah.
It's white chili. If you know white chili.
Yeah, you put heavy cream in.
Yeah. And it was good. But I can't in good conscience. I'm judging a chili cook-off. And while it was good, I feel weird awarding one of the top 3 places to the white chili.
Yeah.
That just feels weird to me. I should reward, standard chili. But if you eat 23 chilies in a sitting, well, a couple of things happen. Many things happen. Most of them gastrointestinal in nature. But you come to realize how many different ways there are to make chili.
Oh, there's a whole bunch.
I mean, you think, well, chili's chili. No, it's not. I mean, some people put beans or no beans, or
right.
You got onion. The onion / green bell pepper in there. I mean, just there's so many different ways. We had a Cincinnati-based chili which had spaghetti in it.
Ooh, yeah,
Oh,
yeah. And what is that? That's called a 3-way or something?
I don't. Well, this just said Cincinnati. I don't know anything about a menage a trois, Mr. Weaver. But
that'd be pretty messy with chili. We gonna bring crackers into this?
I told you not to bring those crackers in this bed. I told you. Chili's. Anyway.
Only if they're Ritz.
Oh, my goodness. That's funny. That's funny. But it was good. We had a great time at the Rudder. Thank you for inviting us out, and we'll go out again. It was a fabulous time. And number 7 won. I have no idea who number 7 is, but number 7 was the consensus winner. You know who I did meet, though? I'm very excited. I met Michael Ponzi.
Oh, yeah.
Of Ponzi Law.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. He's a great guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, his commercial is the one that shows the car flipping.
Oh, yeah.
On I-24.
Oh, yeah. And, but listen, no offense to Michael Ponzi, but I didn't know I guess people think of this of me, but maybe if they're listening to me yell and scream on the radio about something or another with my long, stupid hair, they're like, what kind of dork is that? So when they meet me, hopefully he was a great guy. He's a nice guy.
He seems like it.
Oh, he seems like a great guy. Got to meet him, got to meet a lot of other folks, and saw the redheaded stranger. And she says to say hello to everyone. Say it right, Murphy. That would be Pamela Furr.
Oh, hello, Pamela.
Good afternoon, Sister Pamela Furr.
And she's got a little, y'all give Pamela a little shout out. She's got a little, and I feel comfortable saying this. She was telling me about it Saturday, but she put it out on Facebook. She's got a little melanoma.
Oh.
Little basal melanoma, a little cancer.
What?
Deal on her head.
Yeah.
On her head.
Goodness.
And so she's dealing with that. So luckily, it is of the variety that's common for folks, particularly folks who are fair skinned or stay out in the sun. So she should be fine. But if you happen upon Pamela Furr's Facebook page, just give her a little thumbs up. Wish her well. Anyway, I'll have to get into the Groundhog Day situation. I just don't understand why we put the future of our weather events in the hands of a marmot who is hibernating. I just don't.
I love the word marmot.
I do too. It's really the entire reason I'm talking about this is I get to say marmot.
Does that mean it has a pouch that it puts its young in?
I know. No, that's a marsupial.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Is that right?
Yeah, marsupial.
I might be misusing the word marmot.
Well, let's look it up.
I don't care. I'm going to use it one way or the other.
If the dude calls it a marmot, I'll call it a marmot.
I mean, thank you, Wes. That's exactly right. If it's a marmot to the dude, it's a marmot.
It says here Marmot is a town in West Virginia. Population. Get this. Here's its population. It can't just be 1,500. It's 1,501.
Huh. Well, maybe that one makes all the difference, Ken.
How about if we just round that off, boys?
Yeah, it's just 1,500 folk. But yeah, the concept of relying on a marmot to tell us what the hell the weather's going to do is kind of odd to me. And it never occurred to me before yesterday that these things hibernate, and it's because of Mount Juliet Gary. my groundhog in my backyard, who is currently in hibernation. We were seeing Gary every day, and we were wondering when Gary was going to hibernate. And I assume this has to do with the cold of the weather conditions and something to do with their biological clocks. And I was convinced that the amount of sweet potatoes that Gary was getting in the backyard had something to do with his failure to hibernate, because I would think that part of hibernation is a lack of food source, right? All that to say, Gary went to bed, and Gary hasn't been up, and Gary, frankly, told all of Mount Juliet that they could pound sand. If they're relying on him to tell them the weather, they need to get the app on their phone or something, because Gary's not telling you. Gary did not wake up. So that's
Gary okay?
I mean, Gary's fine.
Oh, okay.
He's just hibernating. Hey, they hibernate, Ken. That's the thing. So why would you pick an animal that is in the middle of hibernation to be the symbol of your little February the 2nd event? They have to wake them up. They have to wake them up from hibernation.
It's not very nice.
And they, you ever wake up from a deep sleep, Ken?
Oh,
People demanding to know what the weather's going to do in 6 weeks?
well, as of this fall, yes. That's whenever I stopped waking up at stupid o'clock.
That's true. Actually, that's pretty nice. Do you still set an alarm, Ken?
Yeah. Yeah, I do that because I still have anxiety.
I stopped.
I'm afraid I'll oversleep.
I know. I stopped. Well, my alarm. I do actually. I take that back. I do have an alarm. Her name is Mrs. Beasley. And when it's time to eat, which is an ungodly 6 o'clock in the morning, she will let you know.
And there's no changing it either.
No, whatever. Let me tell you, none of God's creatures outside of human beings observe daylight saving time. None of them.
Nope.
None of them. It's just us. And if Trump has any way about it, we're not going to do it very much longer either. Donald Trump's got a lot to say about a lot of things. Man, oh man, the first 2 weeks have been insane. Just incredible. An incredible flood of activity, to include the subject of tariffs, which we will get into, and I promise I will do my level best to make it interesting. I cannot make any promises when it comes to tariffs, but Paul Winkler has guaranteed me that he can make it interesting as well. We're going to do that at 3:35 thereabouts this afternoon. We'll talk about the immigration bill in the Tennessee special session. We'll talk about the rhetoric, which is apparently perfectly fine on the political left, to talk about Nazism and taking to the streets and fighting in the streets and all of these sort of things. They're taking the Trump administration quite well. Kamala, the full 60 Minutes interview. Man, we got a lot to do. And I'm way late. It's 24 after the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hello, friends. It's Matt Murphy. Very excited to tell you about a wonderful organization called Stoltz Co. Now, if you don't know what Stoltz Co. does, never fear, you will at the end of this 60 seconds. Stoltz Co. is a company that deals with pole barns and barn dominiums and garages, equestrian spaces, event spaces. They create post-frame buildings that are superior in quality, superior in design, superior in aesthetic. I mean, in every way, these are a better quality design building and structure on your property. And let me tell you something, they're going to last a lifetime for you. If you own land, if you want to do a little something with your money to increase the value of your property, if you're looking to create a man space or a she shed, as they say, let Stoltz Co. build you a high-quality custom structure at a reasonable price. They are the leader in Tennessee in this environment, and they can build what you want on your property. Call them today at 615-622-5992. That's 622-5992. If you're looking for a place to hang out on the weekends, a future home, an investment, or something for the mother or father-in-law in your life, you need to contact Stoltz Co. online at stoltzco.com. That's STOLTZCO.com.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Tariffs update. Lawmakers in Tennessee joining 19 other states where right-to-die debates have begun. These stories and more at 3:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Mr. Weaver. 29 after the hour right now. Not a lot of time before that newscast. That's good news for all of us trying to catch up with what's going on in the world. We're getting your calls as well on this Monday edition of the Matt Murphy Show. Did I do all the pleasantries? 338, 741? I think I did.
You did.
Groundhog Day?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. I'm just making sure. I posted something on my X account. If you want to go follow me on X, you're invited, at Matt Murphy Show. I'm a little, believe it or not, more bawdy on the social media front.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Hard to believe. But I posted something that I have long believed true, and I saw this. I couldn't help it. It's a photograph of two sandwiches. And one of the sandwiches is cut diagonally, the way God intended. The other sandwich is cut in half, like that straight half.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the slide says, the geometry is too complicated to explain here, but cutting your sandwich diagonally gives you more sandwich. And I believe that 100%.
You think so?
I believe 100% true.
Well, it's easier to dip.
I mean, it's no question. You got some honey mustard you want on that sandwich?
Yeah, just stick it
right in there. You can't do that with a square. I mean, I don't trust people that cut their sandwiches square. I don't. It's on the diagonal, man.
All right.
I feel
enough.
like Ken.
I'm with you.
Ken.
Yes, sir.
I feel like Chris Webber's a square man.
I've never really given it a whole lot of thought.
Do you cut your sandwich?
It depends on what type of sandwich it is.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a grilled cheese,
Okay, sure.
then
yeah.
sure you gotta cut that.
Oh, yeah.
And I would diagonal it. Yeah.
So here's my standard, and I don't know if this is the right way or wrong. I don't know. If the bread is not toasted, I typically don't cut the sandwich. But if it is a toasted bread sandwich or like a grilled sandwich like that,
Yeah.
then you got to cut it.
Yeah.
And you only cut it diagonally. Now, if you want to do both diagonals and get little triangles, that's up to you. I mean, you want to get
we get
fancy?
too fancy there,
It's
right?
kind of fancy. Well, you might as well just start cutting the crusts off. Ken Weaver's got the newscast, and we'll be back with Paul Winkler, who will explain tariffs to us, because I think we need that in our lives. 31 after the hour on Super Talk.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. And right now, President Trump scheduled to speak with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau ahead of a midnight deadline to impose steep tariffs on all Canadian goods entering the U.S. Earlier today, Trump agreed to pause similar tariffs on Mexico after Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum agreed to send National Guard troops to the border with the U.S.
They've agreed to put in 10,000 soldiers permanently, like forever, 10,000 soldiers at their side of the border and stop fentanyl and illegal aliens from coming into our country.
An update from officials at the scene of Friday's deadly jet crash in Philadelphia. Dave Packer.
A round-the-clock investigation into Friday's crash of a medical transport flight in northeast Philadelphia. All 6 people on the small jet and 1 person on the ground were killed. New information on the injured from Philadelphia Mayor Sherelle Parker.
The number of people who have been treated so far with injuries that they suffered as a result of the crash has been increased from 22 to 24. 4 of those people remain hospitalized.
Parker says 2 of those 4 remain in critical condition.
Lawmakers in Tennessee and Illinois joining 19 other states where right-to-die debates have begun.
With Roe v. Wade off the books, abortion rights opponents like attorney and lobbyist Will Brewer have shifted their efforts to physician-assisted dying proposals, like the one in Tennessee.
We keep people from committing suicide when they're healthy. Why are we going to aid somebody in suicide in a different scenario?
10 states do allow the practice. In California, more than 3,300 terminally ill patients took their own lives with the help of a physician between 2016 and 2022.
That is Jim Ryan reporting. And the latest news, traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Just picked up a crash 24 westbound. Left 2 lanes are blocked there in Antioch. Going to be near the Blue Hole Road overpass. 24 westbound in Clarksville. Got a person walking along the shoulder of the interstate right there after MLK Parkway. Watch out for that. Then back here in Nashville at the Eastern Split. A crash blocking the Gore there, 40 eastbound at the 2440 split. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Absolutely love having Savory Spice in town. They are an upgrade to your typical spice rack. You don't get spice shops very often. You get spice racks or spice sections, and they don't have the most quality spices. They don't have the selection of Savory Spice. Sadly, a lot of the spices, particularly those that are not used as often in cooking, they've been there for a long, long time. You don't want any of these things in your spice rack at your home. You want delicious, flavorful, and fresh. You want Savory Spice. Secondarily, Savory Spice has the Spice and Easy line. I talk about them all the time because I want to encourage you non-cooks out there to learn how to get around your kitchen, and you can do so quite simply through the Spice and Easy line. All you do is buy the product. They have a delicious array of various foods that you can cook with these things. And they provide all of the spices. They provide all of the direction. All you have to do is buy some of the products that are right there labeled on the back of the package and then do what it tells you to do. And you have a delicious meal, sometimes in less than 30 minutes. Sometimes it's a crock pot meal and it takes a little bit longer. One way or the other, they've got them at Savory Spice. 2 locations, locally owned. Holly and David are apt to be in one of the locations at any given moment. One's in L&L Market in Nashville. The other in Franklin, just off the square. When you go in, you smell the smells, you'll see the things. Tell them that Matt Murphy sent you to up that food game. And you up your food game by upping your spice game at Savory Spice. You know how you can, now I don't necessarily encourage you to go to Google to do this, but I use Google interchangeably with any of your search engines, DuckDuckGo and whatnot. But you know how you can go and if you type in somewhere, it fills in the rest. So you type in like what is or what are.
Oh, yeah.
And it'll fill in things for you. Mm-hmm. And I think that partially has something to do with what other people are looking up. And it partially has to do with your algorithms, I would think.
Probably.
But I just did that.
Okay.
I typed in what are.
Yeah.
You know what the first thing that came up was?
I'm afraid to ask.
Marmots.
I think this has to do with something that I was looking for at some point. What are bully sticks made of? That was the first thing that came up for me.
Bully sticks.
Well, yeah, because I looked that up at one point. You know what I'm talking about for your little dog Fritz? Your little bully. It's called a little bully stick.
Yeah.
I think it's called that because it's made out of bull parts.
That's what I understand. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's the bully stick. Yeah.
Fritz would like that.
I mean, it's a good point, Weber. It's right there in the name.
Yep.
What is the bully stick made of? Well, it's made of the stick of the bully.
That's right.
Number 2, what are the Grammys? That was not due to me.
Wow.
Although I did look up the photo of Kanye West and that lady. I looked that up. So maybe that's why it asked me. Number 3, what are tariffs? A lot of people are wondering the same question. And I thought maybe we could find someone that could answer it a little bit better than good old Matt Murphy. His name is Paul Winkler. You hear me talking about and with Paul often. And Paul is joining us today to give us a rundown on tariffs and what he thinks the impact on the stock market will be, short-term, long-term. All of these questions will be answered by our man, Paul Winkler. Hello, Paul.
Matt, how are you doing?
Man, I'm great.
Good to hear you.
You doing all right?
I'm doing really good. Yeah, really good.
2025 good so far?
Actually, it is quite good. It's unpredictable as always, as yours always are. People try to predict them, but they don't do a very good job. We know that from statistics. They're awful at predicting where markets are going to go, especially what a president's going to do.
Well, true enough. And look, I mean, there's no question that, if we talk markets, the stock market has reacted somewhat negatively to this tariff talk. And I'm just curious if you can, I know you can, but describe to us what tariffs are and what they aren't, and then how it would naturally impact the market and, turn the market in a negative way, at least in the short term.
Yeah, of course, they're taxes. We hear about that. We hear about who pays them, businesses, individuals. If you look at the amount of stuff that Americans, how much we import, it's about 15 to 16% of our GDP. So if you look at what we're actually using day to day, it's not unbelievably huge, but it's significant. And then you look at how much we export about 11% of our GDP is from gross domestic product, if you don't know what that stands for, of our GDP is export activity. So it's a tax that we pay. It's collected by customs. And let's say if we have cars that come in from another country, a lot of times countries will try to do things to avoid them by operating inside of a country rather than operating outside, bringing that product in, and then they have an extra expense on top of it. And now you have U.S. companies competing and getting a little bit of a benefit from competing against countries that are exporting to us, and they're having to pay an extra tax. So that's why people get upset about it, or why the markets get a little bit antsy about it, is because the cost of goods sold can actually go up. So we can have extra expenses. You can have inflation on cars and groceries. And, we've been hearing people talk about guacamole and all of that.
Sure.
So, yeah.
So
that's basically what that is.
All right. So naturally, the markets react negatively because are they reacting to the feeling that naturally if these tariffs happen, that's going to mean costs are going to go up to consumers or going to go up on individual products? What's the market doing when the market reacts to this concept of tariffs?
So we've been hearing a lot of talk that there were going to be tariffs coming. Now, we didn't know how much they were going to be, who they were going to be on, what goods they were going to be on. And it's still there's a lot of gray area. But you saw, it was, last night, you heard that the futures, which tells us what the market is likely to open at, were really, really negative. And it was because of all these announcements over the weekend, how much the tariffs were going to be. Well, when they came out, of course, Trump being the negotiator that he is, he goes way beyond and says, here's what I'm shooting for. This is just my interpretation. He's shooting way beyond what he thinks he really can get or what he wants. So he was coming up with these numbers that were sky high. Well, when you look at those numbers, part of when you run a company, one of the things that hits your earnings, and that's what you're buying when you buy stock, is the rights to the earnings of the company. One of the things that hits your earnings is what are your costs? Because let's say you build cars and you import the rubber for the car, or you import the minerals for the batteries, or you import the steel or whatever, that is going to be a cost that goes into your production. And what he was doing is coming out and saying, hey, they're going to be this high. And then all of a sudden, you get this thing with Mexico and say, hey, we're going to put up 1 month reprieve. And that drops it down some. And you notice what the market did immediately. The market immediately went up again and got close to even again because of that. Now, here's what investors don't get. And this is what if they're going to be good at investing, they really need to get this. The market is not looking at what is going to happen right now, as in stock investors. They're looking 6 months, 12 months out. And that's what we're trying to do, is get a beat on what's going to be happening, not tomorrow, not an hour from now, but what's going to be happening 6 months from now. And that is what drives stock prices around, is, where is this all going to settle? And it's really on anybody's guess as it's where it's really going to settle. So that's why markets are jumping all over the place, readjusting to the new information that's coming out on a minute by minute, day by day basis.
So Do we dare try to put ourselves in the head of the president? I mean, I think the president is using a tool in his arsenal, and he even said, look, I understand that this might shake things up in the short term. I'm paraphrasing here, but it might create some difficulty in the short term, but I'm looking for a long-term benefit. He claims that he is, one, trying to initiate action on the part of these other countries to do things unrelated really to taxation or even manufacturing in America. But I think he's also trying to encourage businesses to bring manufacturing back into this country. At least that's what I feel like he's trying to do, Paul. What about you?
Yeah, I agree with that to some extent. Part of it is, you get the fentanyl, that whole thing. People talk about that, getting more people on the border for that. Now, with the tariff, you got on the negative, you increase the cost of goods sold. That's one of the things. It can be anti-growth. People worry about it being bad. They work, how it affects costs and demands and things like that. But, on the positive, let's look at it that way. What does it do on the other side? Well, it could decrease fentanyl. If it's let's say that there are a lot of dollars that are coming in from tariffs, those dollars could be used for fentanyl enforcement, let's say. We could look at it that way.
Mm-hmm.
If you can reduce the consumption of fentanyl and these things that are coming across the border that are really bad, what does that do to healthcare costs? You think about it, how many people are not in the workforce because of issues with drug use and those types of things, or how is it negatively affecting our workforce? If we could more positively affect our workforce and we could reduce healthcare costs, that has a direct impact on earnings of companies. And you could actually have it be a net positive if you deal with some of these things. Because the other thing that's going on that is not part of this is unrelated, but it can be related. And you look at it and say, well, tariffs are an additional tax. They increase costs. They can decrease productivity. They can decrease profits of companies. But what about the reduction on of regulations on the other hand?
Mm-hmm.
If we could reduce some of these stupid regulations that are so costly, then we could have a situation where it's actually a net positive in the long run. Now, tariffs being used as a negotiating tool, it could be here today and it could be gone tomorrow. And that's why it's so futile to try to figure out, hey, what do we do based on this? How do we take action? Because if you look at it this way, we say, okay, so it could negatively affect earnings. Well, how do we determine earnings? When we go, okay, companies sell stuff. They got cost of goods sold. They got operating expenses. You got to pay your employees. Well, I just talked about healthcare and employee costs and things like that. If you could reduce, if you have a reduction in, let's say, the healthcare costs, that's a net positive on the earnings. But then if you have an increase in the cost of the stuff that you have to buy to put in the products that you make, well, that could have a negative impact on earnings. But if it is only being used as a negotiating tool to get some of these other things that you want out of the way, and that's why I thought what Trump did was so brilliant, is he was saying, hey, look, this could be a real problem in the short run. You could feel some pain as an American in the short run if you just build in that expectation. If I don't expect that something bad could happen, then when something bad happens, I get scared, I get mad, I go into a mode of just fight or flight or freeze. But if I'm told ahead of time we could have some bad stuff, then it's all okay. I can deal with that. And that's what he's doing, because if you have a Mexico that says, hey, we probably ought to come to the table, then, we know that we have probably a partner that is going to turn around and say, hey, let's work together faster than a Canada that says, hey, I'm on the way out anyway, Justin Trudeau.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'll fight for a little bit.
No, I think you nailed the hesitancy that the current prime minister of Canada has to make a deal with Trump, because he feels like he's on the way out. And I think this is more my arena in the political side of things, but Paul, I think there's a lot of virtue signaling going on with Justin Trudeau. And I don't know that I don't want to get inside of his head. I just don't know that he necessarily cares what damage that does to the Canadian or the American economy.
Yeah, for sure. So I could go and say, hey, you know what? I could maybe give Trump a black eye on my way out.
Right.
Yeah, it just really could be that. And then you got China, which is a huge question mark. Nobody really knows. There was Susan Collins, who's Boston Fed, and they were talking to her this morning about the impact of this. And she goes, it's uncertain. The Federal Reserve. That's what I was getting a kick out of this, Matt. I was talking about this over the weekend. I said, people look at the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, and they say, hey, if we do this, if we raise taxes or we have a tariff, here's the impact that it's going to have. And I was just, SMH shaking my head this weekend and going, why nobody pays attention to the CBO is because they never get this stuff right.
Right.
Number one. And the reason is because they use what is called static forecasting. So they're saying, if you do this, I have this variable that I change, then this is what's going to happen on the other hand. When in reality, if you do this, then I'm going to do this, and this person's going to do this, and it's dynamic. People don't just sit there and take things, they change their behavior. And that's where I think this is so interesting with tariffs, is you say, hey, if you raise the tariffs, it's going to have this impact on inflation. And you go, well, how do you know that? How do you know how this person, do you know anything about substitution effect?
Well, Paul,
for example,
it's why. Well, I don't mean to interrupt you, but it is why I love you so much because it bothers me, and I'll never be as learned as you are on these subjects. But it naturally bothers me when I hear, well, if he does this, then this is what's going to happen in 5 years or whatever. And I'm thinking, well, you're not taking into account the chain of events that is going to be created by him doing this. Donald Trump has no interest in raising prices for the average American consumer, but he recognizes in order to accomplish what he does have interest in, he might have to demonstrate that he is willing to go there from a negotiation standpoint in order to accomplish his goals. And the CBO and these other organizations, they never take that into account. And the media organizations that seem to want to reflect the worst of Trump, they never do either. Because, they just get incurious about what his end game is.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. They can't stand short-term pain, and it is who looks long-term that tends to win these battles. Yeah.
Paul, a wealth of information, just a flood of stuff on tariffs and the effect of the economy in about, 15 or so minutes. You know how much we appreciate you on the show. We appreciate your depth of knowledge, and we'll have you on again very soon.
Matt, take care.
All right. See you. There's Paul Winkler. Look, that's good stuff. Earlier today, Donald Trump says, I just spoke with President Claudia Sheinbaum of Mexico. She was very friendly. It was a very friendly conversation wherein she agreed to immediately supply 10,000 Mexican soldiers on the border separating Mexico and the United States. These soldiers will be specifically designated to stop the flow of fentanyl and illegal migrants into our country. We further agreed to immediately pause the anticipated tariffs for a 1-month period, during which we will have negotiations headed by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Secretary of the Treasury Scott Bessent. Am I pronouncing that right? No, Bessent.
Bingo.
Is that right? Okay, good. That's, golly, I love having Ken Weaver back there. And Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick, and high-level representatives of Mexico. I look forward to participating in those negotiations with President Sheinbaum as we attempt to achieve a deal between our two countries. And just moments ago, Justin Trudeau, the governor of Canada, said that that Canada had come to some sort of an agreement where there would be a pause on tariffs in Canada. And that's the first time hearing of that. I just saw it on monitor number 2.
There it is. Yep.
So there you go. So all is working itself out. I'm going to describe to you what I mean when I say the media does not want to use its brain when it comes to Trump. Instead, they want to scare the hell out of people. They did this during his last presidency as well. 54 after the hour on Super Talk. Hello, friends. It's Matt Murphy. It is the month of romance. That's right. February is the month of Valentine's Day, as you know, and it's almost here. If you're looking for the most thoughtful romantic gift for the one that you love this Valentine's Day, let me encourage you to head over to Genesis Diamonds. First thing, guys, she likes chocolate. She likes flowers. She likes a nice dinner at a restaurant. You know what she loves? She loves diamonds. She loves something sparkly on her finger, on her wrist, on her neck, on her ears. At Genesis Diamonds, a simple pendant maybe, or an exquisite one of the kind designer ring. Genesis can help you pick out the most memorable and special piece of jewelry for the occasion. And to make it even smoother and sweeter for you, Now until Valentine's Day, it's one-stop shopping at Genesis Diamonds. For if you spend $399, you can spend $399. You can spend $39,000. You can spend $399,000. One way or the other, Genesis is giving you chocolates, fresh flowers, and dinner out at no charge. It's one-stop shopping for the ultimate Valentine's Day experience. When you buy any piece of beautiful jewelry, $399 and up, Genesis is giving you a bouquet of flowers from Jenny's Florist, a gift card for dinner at Fancy Pants Restaurant. Don't mess around. Get to Genesis Diamonds, guys. They have it all for this Valentine's Day. Green Hills and Cool Springs, limited quantities, I should say. See store for details.
Four o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. And now Canada has agreed to put more emphasis on border security. Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister, says he's going to put some assets down there on the border. Therefore, President Trump says, okay, I'll pause those 25% tariffs on you for a month, see how it goes. Here's what he said earlier about that with Canada.
And, you know, I wouldn't mind making our cars in the United States, so we have a problem there. I'd like to make our cars in the U.S. We don't need Canada to make our cars. With that being said, we're going to have another call at 3 o'clock.
And apparently that was pretty fruitful. Earlier today, Trump paused tariffs on Mexico after President Claudia Sheinbaum announced the deployment of 10,000 Mexican troops to help keep illegal immigrants from coming to America through Mexico. With assisted dying statutes on the books in 10 states, 19 more considering allowing people with fatal illnesses to decide when and where to die. Jim Ryan says Tennessee and Illinois have joined the debate.
The right to die proposal in Tennessee specifies that only adults suffering terminal illnesses may ask their doctors to intervene.
Other states have allowed people, as they enter in the last stage of life, to medically end their life.
Democratic state lawmaker Bob Freeman wants Tennessee to be the next, 2 states away.
An important part of the pro-life movement is ensuring life is protected from conception to natural death.
Republican Chris Pritt is a lawmaker in West Virginia whose voters have changed the state constitution to ban physician-assisted dying.
Very grim work at the D.C. plane crash site in the Potomac River.
During recovery and salvage operations today, additional human remains were located.
That is Assistant Fire Chief Gary Steen. Meanwhile, in Philadelphia,
investigators have recovered the voice recorder from the cockpit of the medical transport jet that crashed shortly after takeoff near a Philadelphia shopping center Friday night. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy joined officials at the site of the crash Monday.
There is an enhanced ground proximity warning system. Information can come off that device, whether it's the speed or location of the aircraft.
Duffy says he hopes to get investigators' preliminary report within 30 days.
Here in Nashville, Metro Police say a woman has died from a gunshot wound to the gut yesterday. Police say she and her boyfriend were fighting inside their 28th Avenue North apartment. The boyfriend, 64-year-old Ray Greer, allegedly admitted he shot 44-year-old Leslie Yount during an argument over money. Jordana Miller updates the Gaza ceasefire.
The Israeli Prime Minister in Washington meeting with Mideast envoy Steve Witkoff. That a day before Benjamin Netanyahu sits down with President Trump at the White House. The president wants Netanyahu to quickly end the Gaza war and bring all the hostages home, including 6 Americans. But Netanyahu is weighing another round of fighting in Gaza as he watches Hamas reassert its control over the streets and send the message it has not been defeated.
That is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hello, friends. It's Matt Murphy for United Structural Systems. Since 1994, USS has been serving Middle Tennessee for quality assistance in helping you figure out what's going on with your home if you have foundation issues or if you have waterproofing issues. And since 1994, I used to say over 25,000 customers. At this point in the game, we're almost to 30,000 satisfied residential customers in those 30 years. That's a lot of satisfaction. And friends, they'll get it done. If you've noticed the telltale signs, if you don't know what they are, by the way, you can go to USSTN.com. That's USSTN.com and find out some additional information about what you ought to look for when it comes to an issue in your home, like windows sticking, doors sticking, musty, moldy smells in the basements or the crawl space, cracks in mortar joints in the basement or the crawl space particularly. All of these things could be signs that there's something going on in your home. You need to handle that, get in front of that so that it does not become a bigger expense down the road. And you do so by contacting USS. They are your friendly foundation and waterproofing experts in Middle Tennessee. Call them today. The telephone number is as follows, 615-488-7855, 488-7855, or USSTN.com.
All right, Lebanon, we've got a crash reported by the Highway Patrol, 840 westbound at Stewart's Ferry Pike. And in Franklin, 840 westbound near Lewisburg Pike. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is the Matt Murphy Radio Show, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Matt Murphy, conveniently enough. And we're here till 7 o'clock tonight. We hand off to Mark Levin at that time. 4:07, and a good afternoon. In mere moments, we will be joined by Senate Majority Leader Jack Johnson. No, it is not necessarily to do a post-mortem on the special session, although we will do that. It is not necessarily to speak about the passage of the Education Freedom Act, but we will mention that. Now, more specifically, I want to talk about this immigration bill that passed through the Tennessee Senate and the House and goes to the governor's desk. The GOP, because obviously anything done in the Tennessee General Assembly is going to be done with the blessing of the Republican Party. They have supermajorities in both houses. Well, Tennessee Republicans finalized an immigration bill last Thursday, establishing a new enforcement office exempt from the public records law and criminalizing local officials who support sanctuary policies for immigrants. Now, that was a sentence written by the Tennessean. So I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know enough about this legislation to make a value judgment on it as of yet, but I want to get to know more. Secondarily, I'm predisposed to be against this. I am as ardent a supporter of Donald Trump's policies regarding immigration in the United States of America as anyone. I'll put up my past, my credentials, and my position against anybody's. You know, one of the reasons that I would describe myself to you as a libertarian with a small L, one of the reasons that I do not claim to be a part of the Libertarian Party, while I do agree with the basic libertarian philosophy of governance, that governments that are freedom-minded, governments that believe in liberty, serve best when they serve least and only when absolutely necessary. These are the types of governments that I am supportive of. And so with that in mind, I want a government that is going to support our borders, going to support the basic constitutional duties of the United States of America on a federal level, and then from the state perspective, do the things necessary to support those concepts throughout the state, but also leave a generous amount of some of this to local municipalities and local government. So we'll discuss that with the aforementioned Mr. Jack Johnson coming up in just a moment. If you're just joining us and not hearing the news, Mexico said no mas on the issue of tariffs. And Donald Trump had what he described as, well, I'll just read it from Trump's profile here. He said, I just spoke with President Claudia Sheinbaum of Mexico, a very friendly conversation. She agreed to immediately supply 10,000 Mexican soldiers on the border separating Mexico and the United States. These soldiers will be specifically designed to stop the flow of fentanyl and illegal migrants into our country. We further agreed to immediately pause the anticipated tariffs for a 1-month period of time. I don't know. Allow me, if you will, a second. I want to check, because if you want to get it from the horse's mouth, you got to go over here. Donald Trump does not treat us on X like he used to. He's got too much invested in Truth Social, I suppose. So don't tell me there's no truths to show. I know that there most certainly are truths to show. My Truth Social's not working right now. It's very bothersome. Wanted to find out if we had any update from Donald Trump himself on the issue of Canada, because Justin Trudeau, the governor of Canada, and Donald Trump had a conversation where, let me type this in. Oh, here we go. There it is. See, thank you. Finally got it. Massive update here. Donald J. Trump on the old Truth Social. Canada has agreed to ensure we have a secure northern border to finally end the deadly scourge of drugs like fentanyl that have been pouring into our country, killing hundreds of thousands of Americans while destroying their families and communities across our country. Canada will implement their $1.3 billion border plan, and as per Prime Minister Trudeau, will be, quote, reinforcing the border with new choppers, technology, and personnel, enhanced coordination with our American partners, increased resources to stop the flow of fentanyl. Nearly 10,000 frontline personnel are and will be working to protect the border. In addition, Canada is making new commitments to appoint a fentanyl czar. We will list cartels as terrorists, ensure 24/7 eyes on the border, launch a Canadian-U.S. Joint Strike Force to combat organized crime, fentanyl, and money laundering. We've also signed a new intelligence directive on organized crime and fentanyl, and we will be backing it with $200 million. Then Donald Trump, that's Justin Trudeau. Donald Trump says, as president, it is my responsibility to ensure the safety of all Americans, and I'm doing just that. I'm pleased with this initial outcome. The tariffs announced Saturday will be paused for a 30-day period to see whether or not a final economic deal with Canada can be structured. Fairness for all. So it seems that the naysayers were wrong again about Donald Trump and his ability to negotiate deals. You come in tough, you use strong language. Yes, might there be some short-term rockiness on the road? Certainly, but if we all know where we're trying to get to, as long as we get there, I think we'll put up with a little bit of a rocky path so long as we accomplish something that other presidents have not been able to accomplish. Let me just reset this momentarily, and then we'll talk with Jack Johnson, who just joins us in studio. Former President Joe Biden had no interest in doing anything about the scourge of fentanyl. Under the presidency of Joe Biden, hundreds of thousands of people died of fentanyl overdoses. I would not suggest to you that all of those people could have been saved, but many of them I would suggest to you could have been saved had we a stronger border policy that stopped drugs at our southern border. You know, and these are drugs that are ultimately, in many cases, coming from source material out of China. And they come from China that's manufactured in Mexico. You know, the Canadian fentanyl problem is much, much smaller in terms of the amounts. But any amount is too much, in my opinion. So kudos to Donald Trump for doing something that Joe Biden had zero. And I wouldn't even suggest that he did not have the ability to do it, because Donald Trump's done it in 2 weeks. He had no willingness to do it, no desire to do it. Because if you stop the drugs, you know what else you stop? The people. And sadly, for the Democrats, that's a major policy position that they need illegal aliens in this country. It's sad, but it is true. To speak on this and so many other matters, we welcome back to the program Senate Majority Leader Jack Johnson, who is in studio a little bit further away, but he's just as close to us in our hearts. Hello, Jack.
Wow, the new studio is amazing. It looks great. Where did my flags go?
I told you they're right there. They're in the newsroom.
Okay, good.
Well, and I wanted, here's the deal. They're in the newsroom because Jack donated the Tennessee and the United States of American flag. I think those flew over the
they did.
Flew over the Capitol building.
We gave you certificates attesting.
I know. You and I are bound by those flags because you provided the flags and I bought the flag poles.
That's right.
After being told that the flag poles were not in the budget. So I said, well, I think we
kind of need to have polls.
I think they're in my budget. Yeah. So my plan is, I've told no one this, and I make no decisions because I'm a worker bee. But I thought, wouldn't they look like right over your right shoulder, right there in that corner?
Really good.
Look really good.
Yeah, that'd be a great backdrop.
Because people would see them right behind Senate Majority Leader Jack Johnson. But I was told
There's far more distinguished people that'll be sitting here than me that they will look good for. So.
I was told to hold your wad until the room is done, and then we can dress out the room with the.
It looks really good though. I've been in here many times over the years, and this is amazing.
I think we moved from. What would you say, Weber? Somewhere in 1996, we probably got to what? 2014, maybe? I don't know. The TV, though, that television is modern America right there. That is true. Well, good to have you in, Jack.
Yeah, thanks. I'm sorry I was getting a little bit close on time. I got tied up over. We're not in session this week. The Senate's not, although we still have a lot of meetings going on, and so I got tied up as I was rushing out.
Let's. Y'all haven't had anything going on, right?
No, it's been quiet.
Your analysis of the special session.
In 4 days, we addressed three very, very big, important, and to some degree complicated subject areas. And I got to tell you, I've been doing this for quite a while, and I've never seen, I think, the system work better than it did working between the House, the Senate, and the governor's office. Of course, we talk about special session. Yeah, that was 4 days. Well, there were months of work leading up to those 4 days to actually get legislation across the finish line. But the actual process worked very well. Great cooperation between the House and the Senate and the governor's office. And I'm proud. To get that done in 4 days, special session, you go in and you're focused on just a very, very small number of things. During regular session, it's more drawn out, but you may be voting on hundreds of bills, in committee and on the floor, and so there's a lot more coming. Special session is very limited, but you can do a very deep dive on a handful of things, and I'm proud. We got everything accomplished that we wanted to, that the governor proposed, and I think Tennessee's better for it.
And I would also, toward your point, I think it took last session to help us understand, some of the different approaches that both bodies had on this, to get you guys together out of session.
Right.
I know there were many meetings and many discussions about not just the Education Freedom Act, but, other matters that you might be called into a special session with regard to, pressing matters like immigration. It was a long time coming to get to that 4-day crunch.
Yeah, someone said that was being critical of our efforts that we were rushing this through. Well, we spent a year working on it and talking about it and hours of conversation with stakeholders and fellow members and the governor's office and everything else. So the special session is kind of just the last step to actually get these things done. You don't just wake up one day of the governor and say, hey, let's go into special session for 4 days. And by the way, I want you to tackle these three. No, we've known for months that we're going to be doing this. So, but from a procedural standpoint, it was very good, very efficient, lots of discussion, even though it was a handful of things over a 4-day period of time. But if you watched any of the proceedings, the committee hearings, House, Senate, a lot of conversation about it. So I think we did good work.
Anytime we have these discussions, it occurs to me that we have two tracks of thought. One is what happened, what will the impact be to the people of the state of Tennessee? And the other is kind of more of a political piece. And I'm curious on the political side of things, which is not nearly as important, frankly. No offense to you guys, but not nearly as important.
I agree completely.
But it seemed that the House, it got a little more heated than it did in the Senate. And I would ask you, and I'm not saying that one is better than the other. I just would ask, was that your observation, and is that just the nature of the difference of the two bodies?
It really is, and in fact, that's fairly consistent with regular session, and I think that's the way the framers wanted it to be. The House, there's more members, there's 99 of them, there's more people to talk, and the passions get a little bit more inflamed. The Senate tends to be, not that we get very passionate in the Senate too, and people get very passionate about their arguments, but we do tend to be the more deliberative body, and there's fewer of us, and so there's fewer people to talk on things, so they can talk longer, and we can spend more time in committee. And again, it's not a criticism of the House or the Senate. It's just the nature of the process of how things work. But you're right. I use this phrase frequently. I may have said it on your show. We do policy first, then we worry about politics. And that's the way I've always governed, is I'm going to do what I think is the right policy, regardless of the political implications. Those will work themselves out over time. But I think we passed really, really good policy.
Do you, and I want to speak on the immigration piece more than even the Education Freedom Act, and not that the Education Freedom Act isn't very important, but I think we've talked a lot about that.
It's gotten a lot of discussion.
Do you, now that it is to the governor and it will be signed and it will become law and we will see impact this calendar year, right? I mean, this year you will have parents applying for scholarships, receiving scholarships. Do you understand the criticism by Republicans, not Democrats? Democrats don't. They love the unions. They love the status quo. They love the monopoly. But the Republicans, do you understand what their concerns are?
So I've heard them, and I try to listen. I just disagree vehemently. It's hard for me to understand the arguments from those who would call themselves a fellow conservative against it. Again, full respect, I'm not denigrating anyone. But if you really believe in empowering parents, how could you oppose this legislation? Because that's ultimately what the legislation does. So again, I've got good friends that oppose the legislation. We're going to be good friends into the future. But I do have a hard time seeing when we've discussed it ad nauseum, addressing some of the alleged concerns about it. But that's the way the process works. We got 20 votes in the Senate. We got 53 votes in the House. Governor Lee's going to sign it. And here's the other thing about this, Matt, is we passed it. Now it's got to be implemented. We're going to get data. We're going to see how it works. We're going to get, this is something, it's not a one and done, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to continue to have conversations. We may go back and revise it later. We may tweak it. Hopefully at some point we'll expand it and try to help more families. But maybe I'm not the right person to ask because I believe so passionately in this, in empowering parents. And as I said on the floor, we want a great public school system, and we're going to continue to work for that. But you're being disingenuous if you think that no matter how hard we work, that public school system that we run is going to meet the needs of every student in Tennessee as determined by their parents. And it's not going to. And that's why you need this alternative for those families who want to choose a different option for their kids. And that's what we did, and I'm proud of it. And again, the conversation will continue.
Jack Johnson is with us 22 after the hour. He is Senate Majority Leader. We will talk on this immigration bill. I need to be schooled, literally, about the ins and outs of this immigration bill because I don't know if I'm confused or maybe I just have a different perspective on it, but we're going to talk about it with Jack Johnson in a moment on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy for the Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief. I went to the Dr. Gill Center, and Dr. Gill and the team of chiropractic professionals repaired issues that were lingering in my back for years, issues that created, pill-based dynamics where I was taking a lot of medication. If I wanted to go play golf, I had to, take a lot of painkillers to go play golf. Well, I don't do that anymore. Thank you to the Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief. Why? Because they believe in that natural, holistic approach. They want to try to solve the issue without covering up with pain pills, without covering it up with a shot. I mean, literally, there are some people that take injections to block pain for years. They go to the Dr. Gill Center, and that pain is relieved through chiropractic care, through spinal decompression, through the Class 5 laser system, through the red light therapy, all available at the Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief. Schedule an appointment today. Get pain-free. You can go online at callmepainfree.com. That's the easy-to-remember website, callmepainfree.com, or call 615-882-4838. 882-4838. It's the Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief in Franklin. Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in, and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about Spice and Easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
It doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
Well, a group of folks waving the Mexican flag, demonstrating against President Trump's illegal immigration crackdown, and that demonstration going on right here in Nashville. We'll tell you about it at 4:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN, Matt Murphy, and Jack Johnson is in with us, discussing the special session that was. Regular session is coming back, next week?
So the House went in today.
Okay.
And
you guys in the Senate, you just didn't want to go back to work, or what's the story there?
We're working. It's just we're not officially having floor committee sessions. The governor will deliver his budget and deliver the state of the state on the 10th.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the House says they got more subcommittees and things. It made sense for them to go in, get a week's head start. We can typically move a little faster in the Senate, so it made good sense for us to do that. And they're hard at work, and we'll be back at it on Monday.
One more, I promise to know more, but one more question on the Education Freedom Act, and then we'll move to the immigration piece. Because one, I don't want to get into immigration. I don't want us to fuss with one another. We don't have enough time. I don't know that we're going to fuss, but we'll find out. So one of the criticisms that I heard, and I don't mean to be dismissive of the Democrats, but I kind of am. But I'm more genuinely interested in the Republican. And one of the odd criticisms, I know it's in the House, but was that they did not have enough time to argue against this. They said, y'all didn't give us, and Jody Barrett, Representative Barrett said, y'all gave us 4 minutes. And I thought both sides had 45 minutes. Pro and con. That was my understanding.
Right.
Do you feel like the opposition was fairly heard?
Well, and I'll speak to the Senate first, and then I'm always careful about speaking about House procedure because I don't serve in that body. They make their own rules, and I fully support whatever they decide to do. On the Senate side, we had no limitations on any conversation. We didn't. We did call for the question, but there was no objection from the Democrats, meaning everyone kind of agreed we had spent enough time. Everyone had an opportunity to say their piece. Same thing in the committee system. And Matt, it's not just what happens in that time during session. This has been a topic of conversation for over a year in the state of Tennessee. For, against, I've had dozens, if not hundreds of meetings with constituents, for and against, school officials, teachers, and other members have as well. We have talked this thing to death, if you will. So for someone to say that someone didn't have enough time to voice their opinion on it, I don't agree with that. I think we've really had a good public conversation. The General Assembly had a good conversation about it, and members knew where they were. It was time to vote for it or against it.
All right, perfect way to suspend the conversation for just a moment. We've got Ken Weaver coming in here with news headlines. Jack Johnson is with us. We'll talk immigration bill in the Tennessee special session. It has passed. It has gone to the governor. When is he signing these things? Do you know?
I don't know that he has publicly announced that. He's got a certain amount of time from the time he receives it from the speakers, but I'm confident it'll probably be this week.
Yeah, before the state of the state
of
address.
the state, exactly.
All right, so more on that and more on immigration in a moment on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Right now in Nashville, Channel 4's Sharon Dankwa says a group is demonstrating against President Trump's illegal immigration crackdown.
Looks like 30 to 40 people out here on the right side of the Parthenon. They said they're getting together, rallying, chanting, and saying that they're spreading information for those who feel like they're getting misinformation, and they say they're fighting against the mass deportations.
Yeah, at least one of the demonstrators waving a Mexican flag. President Trump pausing 25% tariffs on Mexico and Canada for a month now that both countries have agreed to do more to help stem the flow of illegal immigrants and fentanyl into the U.S. Both countries beefing up their military presence. Meanwhile, at the southern border,
because of President Donald Trump, this is a new era at the southern border.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth meeting with some of the active duty soldiers sent to the region there in El Paso by President Trump. Then he was speaking to reporters. And at the D.C. plane crash scene.
It's tragic, and everything imaginable that you can think of, right? That is what they're dealing with day in and day out.
Assistant Fire Chief Gary Steen said resources being offered to support the divers searching for human remains. 55 victims positively identified so far. Meanwhile, in Philadelphia, Mayor Sherrell Parker says a number of people who have been treated with injuries from Friday night's plane crash has increased from 22 to 24. 4 still hospitalized, 2 in critical condition. Here in Nashville, a woman has been charged for Saturday's panicked mass exodus from Opry Mills Mall when everyone thought there was a shooter. Well, there wasn't. Police say 29-year-old Alexandria Dady went into the Chili's kitchen and threw a glass at her ex-boyfriend's head, slicing up his right arm and wrist when he went to block it. He ran outside, and police say she forced him into a black Dodge Challenger where she and another woman didn't let him out of the car until around Bonnet Creek Drive, where his current girlfriend picked him up. More than 40 cops responded to Opry Mills, spending hours going store to store to make sure no one was still inside or hurt. By the way, Dady is an ex-con with a violent past who was released on the new charges on $40,000 bond. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Seeing a crash blocking the left lane, 24 eastbound after Almaville Road. Then in Laverne, a crash partially blocking the on-ramp 24 westbound from Old Hickory Boulevard. In Hermitage, a crash at 40 westbound after Stewart's Ferry Pike. And then in Franklin, I-40 westbound near Lewisburg, a Pike. And in Antioch, 24 westbound before Haywood Lane. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I mean, it's 73 degrees outside, right? So you're probably popping on the air conditioner for a minute or two this afternoon just to kind of get it cooled down. By tonight, you'll probably have the heater on. I mean, things are running crazy in Tennessee this time of year, as sometimes it happens. I mean, Tennessee's insane when it comes to weather. You know, one day it's AC, the next day it's heater. If this is putting a strain on your system and you don't know if your system is running properly, I encourage you to contact Jeff Eddy in Efficient Heating and Cooling. Allow Jeff or one of his incredible technicians to come out. Whatever the time of day might be, if something goes out, they're going to come out. They will never charge you overtime rates. They don't believe in it. Jeff, you know, it's simple for Jeff. Your heater doesn't know what time it is. So you shouldn't pay double time, or you shouldn't pay more because it's 7 o'clock at night versus 2 o'clock in the afternoon. That's just a philosophy that Jeff Eddy has and has carried that with him at Efficient Heating and Cooling since he started the company. Give him a call. Now, when it's time, and they understand that you don't want to hear those words, but you can trust he's telling you the truth. And they're an Elite Pro partner with Rheem, so they can help you find the right unit that's for you if it's time to replace that unit. Call 615-784-4424 or efficienthvac.net. Hello, friends. It's Matt Murphy for Tennessee Men's Clinic. Okay, guys, it's time to have a frank discussion about your health and about your numbers. Because I know guys avoid their numbers. I've been there too, right? Whether it's blood pressure, maybe cholesterol, or your T levels. But if you're avoiding your T level numbers, let me tell you what that could, how that could impact you. It could affect about 50% of men in the listening audience are going to be impacted on some level regarding their T levels, their testosterone. If you've put this off and you know that you're putting it off and you know that it has impacted you, and I don't like to get into your business, but we're talking about intimate relationships with you and your partner. The reality is pills often quit working and guys make excuses. Well, if you're making excuses, did you know that studies show that men tend to be more irritable and argumentative if this is in their life? I mean, so it's impacting more than just intimacy. Guys, here's the deal. Call Tennessee Men's Clinic. Go in there and let's get this handled. Let's take care of your business. Find out what your T levels are. Find out if Tennessee Men's Clinic is right for you. You can find out more information at TennesseeMen'sClinic.com or call 615-208-9090. 208-9090. 2 locations, Cool Springs and Midtown. It's Tennessee Men's Clinic. Oh, man, it's we're in the fancy new studios, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matt Murphy Show right now brought to you by U.S. Pest. Of course, you can find us on Talk TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. Not only see the fetching face of Matt Murphy, but also the one and only Senate Majority Leader and fine-looking fellow, Jack Johnson, is in studio with us. And I like that shirt. That's nice.
Well, thank you. I'm not wearing a suit and tie, as I often am whenever I come in, but I'm a little more casual today.
No, that's quite. You don't often see an embroidered button-down of that fashion, and it looks great on you, Jack.
Well, thank
I'm not
you.
just trying to butter you up because we might disagree on this next subject. I really do think it looks good.
Well, I knew the studio had been refurbished. I just wanted to be appropriately dressed to come in here for my first time in the new studio.
We do have new dress code in place. Tell me. Obviously, the East Tennessee disaster relief funding is, kind of a no-brainer.
Sure.
We've talked quite a bit about education. Tell me what the immigration piece was about.
Yeah, so there are 3 primary components there. Number one, let me stop for a moment and say the reason for this and the reason for the urgency and the reason the governor included it in the call for the special session. We have a new sheriff in town in Washington, D.C. His name is Donald J. Trump. He's not sheriff. He's president of the United States.
But,
we
get what you mean.
Expression.
Yeah.
And one of the things he campaigned on, and we are already seeing he and his staff in action on, is relative to deportation of particularly violent people that are in the country illegally. You've seen, Matt, we've all seen these folks in other states, governors, mayors, sheriffs, other elected officials in other states, saying that they're going to impede or try to impede the efforts of Immigrations and Custom Enforcement and the Trump administration. We wanted to send the exact opposite message that, no, we are fully going to cooperate. Our local law enforcement, our state law enforcement, all levels of government in Tennessee are going to cooperate with their efforts. And, in fact, we hope and encourage them to come to Tennessee and get these violent folks out of our communities. So we created a central immigration enforcement division under Department of Homeland Security. We put a sunset on it. It may not be something we need into perpetuity, but we wanted to make sure that there is a point person or persons for all the stakeholders across the state can go to get their questions answered. What do we do about this? How do we do this? If ICE is going to come into our state, they can notify them and say, hey, we're going to be executing raids in this community or that community, and here's the intel we have, or whatever. So we want to make sure that's all being cooperated with at the local level. So that's one thing. The other thing is
Can I ask you a question on that first point? So you said it was called the what?
Central Immigration Enforcement Division. Yeah.
Why in the world did we not call this the Immigration Customs Enforcement Division of Tennessee? Because then it would be iced tea. Jack.
We failed. We missed
yours is the CIED.
That's a great point.
It could have been the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Division of Tennessee.
We go into regular session on Monday, and
tea.
I can still make that happen.
Please.
I can try. I don't know I can get the votes for it, but I love that.
Who doesn't like iced tea?
We're Southern.
I will not argue a second of this bill if you name it iced tea.
Sweet iced tea. I mean,
it's pretty sweet. Trumps it up. All right. So anyway, but that aside, so do we not? I mean, and I'm not trying to be. Do we not already have that? Do we not already have a component of that could have served in that capacity without creating another level of bureaucracy?
Well, first of all, I'd push back that it's a level of bureaucracy.
How much money did it cost?
We have
$5 million?
No, about $500,000. About $500,000 for the 4 positions.
The legislation will fund. So is the within the Tennessee Department of Safety and Homeland Security, the legislation will fund $5 million, allowing Lee to tap. I mean, maybe the Tennessean might be wrong.
No, they're right. But the $5 million is for something different that I'm about to get to.
Oh, okay. I'm ahead of myself.
That's okay. No. For administration of these, it's for 4 positions in the Department of Homeland Security, Department of Safety. And by the way, they have some open positions. They may not even need that appropriation, but want to make sure they have it. The second thing the legislation does is create a grant fund for local law enforcement. That's the $5 million, and that's a one-time appropriation. We're going to set up a grant fund, a pool that local governments can pull down from if they want to participate in the 287G program, which is a long-standing from 1996 program. No one really uses it or has used it much because it hasn't been that effective. Mm-hmm. But we think, based on what's been telegraphed from the Trump administration, that this is going to be a far more relevant program, and it's where local law enforcement, our sheriffs who run our jails, and other law enforcement can partner with and get trained by ICE in order to execute some of those responsibilities and form a better partnership. So it's not just federal agents coming into your community. It would be really good if there's good cooperation between the sheriff's office or the local police department. So that's kind of what I'm skimming over it, but that's a 287G. But that may require some training, maybe some additional equipment or some things like that. So that's the $5 million, a one-time appropriation.
So am I hearing you correctly? You don't want these local communities to not get the training necessary for a lack of funding.
Exactly. And you think about 95 counties across the state. Some are more affluent and prosperous than others. Some of them are on very, very tight budgets. And so
is that a needs-based allocation?
Yeah. The department will determine, and local law enforcement agencies can apply and say, yeah, we want to buy this equipment, or we want to send these officers to this training so they can know how to better partner with ICE. So that's the $5 million. The recurring for the positions was roughly half a million dollars.
Got it.
And then the third and final thing was relative to the driver's licenses, which this was a big issue for House Majority Leader William Lamberth, to make sure that those driver's licenses are clearly marked for people who are in the country lawfully. Maybe they're here on a work visa, or they can be here and they're working and they can drive. And in some instances, they do get a Tennessee driver's license. But we want to make sure it's clearly distinguished between that and a United States citizen.
And I'm not being cute when I ask this question. I'm being sincere. Why? Why do we need to distinguish?
Well, I'd say the primary reason is for voting.
Sure.
You want to make sure, because in Tennessee, you have to show ID
Somebody
to
pops
vote.
an ID and
exactly.
might get them through there.
Right. Because as it is right now, if you're a lawful permanent resident, I hope I get my terminology right, but you're not a United States citizen, you can be here, you can have a driver's license, but your driver's license just looks just like yours or mine.
Right.
And it should be distinguished from a United States citizen for purposes of voting or purposes of obtaining certain types of public assistance and things like that. We just need to make sure those lines are clearly noted. And then there's a provision in there relative to the existing law, and I know I suspect you want to talk about this relative to local government officials. It's a violation of current law in Tennessee to adopt any policy that would make you a sanctuary city or sanctuary county, a political subdivision. And but unfortunately, that provision in the current statute doesn't really have much teeth in it. It's against state law now to do anything to thwart the efforts of ICE to enforce federal law. It's a violation of federal law. If you've seen Tom Homan on TV, and he's been on TV a lot, and when he's asked, well, what are you going to do in such and such city, where the mayor said they're going to just thwart any effort your people extend in order to get people out. And he said, well, I'm going to arrest them and charge them with a felony.
Right.
Because it's a felony under federal law.
You don't have to help us, but you can't hurt us.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Okay, so if that is already going to happen, so who would initiate that? In other words, if there is a community hindering the federal government in their pursuit of illegal aliens in the state of Tennessee, would it not be the federal government that would raise the flag?
Could be. And probably under President Trump's Department of Justice, under the leadership of Pam Bondi, I suspect there might be some prosecutions of that. But it is not uncommon for us to mirror state law with federal law, with similar types of penalties, so that if for whatever reason they don't have the resources to go after someone who's violating federal law, we have a similar parallel law in state law so that our local DAs or attorney general can pursue it.
So can you then, what would the initiating body be under this legislation to arrest, for example, a city councilor?
So
and what would the parameters be that would cause that arrest? In other words, if a city council voted, it's a 9-person city council, and they voted 5-4 on a sanctuary city status and voted sanctuary cities down, they're not going to do it. But 4 of them voted for sanctuary cities. Are they arrestable?
They could be. I mean, we have prosecutorial discretion in Tennessee, and it would be up to the DA.
You're going to arrest duly elected officials for being dumb?
If they're breaking federal law and breaking state law, and it's already a violation of state law, and it's already a violation of federal law to take action that thwarts or impedes the effort of federal authorities to come in and enforce federal immigration law.
But no law was enacted in my scenario, in my hypothetical. There was no city council municipal ordinance that was enacted. You just had maybe somebody just making a statement that they were against the federal law, that they were standing, I don't know, that they were dumping tea over a boat into a harbor, which is, this seems to go against the fundamental backbone of the United States of America, that each man duly elected has an opportunity to vote, even in protest of what is existing law. I think the state of Tennessee did it with the abortion laws in the state of Tennessee. When Roe v. Wade was the law of the land, did not Tennessee vote knowing that the law that they were passing was illegal based on Supreme Court precedents, but y'all did it anyway?
Well, we passed a law that was in violation of Supreme Court case ruling. I don't know if I'd characterize it as a violation of the law. Look, Matt.
The Supreme Court ruling said that no state could. But just help me understand what's different about this.
Well, I'll tell you what's different. We're in an unprecedented time right now in our country. We have a president of the United States who ran for re-election, and his number one campaign issue was to deal with illegal immigration. Our state and our nation, our communities are being overrun with people that are in this country illegally. Tennessee has the highest rate of death of overdose from fentanyl more than any other state in America. So we have a horrific problem that has taken place at our border. And as Marsha Blackburn says, every state is a border state and every town is a border town. We want to fix that. And if there's a locally elected official, a city alderman, a county commissioner or something, who is going to thwart existing federal law, it's already illegal. It's already against the law to do it. But it's just we don't have any teeth in the state statute.
You didn't pass a law that permitted you to throw them out of office. You passed a law that permits you to throw them in jail. That's my problem with this, is that you're making it a criminal offense. And explain to me why we went to the criminal side of this as opposed to just saying, look, if you are going to vote in a fashion that is clearly against state law, and I agree with you on all of this. You and I are not far off from it, but my issue is if I want to take a stand for what I believe in, and I know the state disagrees with me, and I know the federal government disagrees with me, you're making me taking a political stand against the law, and you're going to put me in jail as a state entity for making that political stand. That does not feel like America, Jack.
You, Matt, are equating having a difference of opinion with violating law.
I'm not violating law by casting a vote.
There is a distinct difference between taking a stand and voting for something, even if it has been ruled unconstitutional by the United States Supreme Court.
Why don't you make it illegal for the Democrats in the General Assembly to vote against how you want them to vote then? I mean, if you feel like they're voting against established state law, which they do on the regular, why don't you just? It doesn't seem American to make it a criminal act.
It is American to follow the law. It is American to respect the laws that have been passed at the federal and the state level. It's already, I don't know how many times I got to say it, it's already against the law.
But y'all did the same thing with the abortion deal. Explain to me how it was different with the abortion again.
So, well, I don't think it's directly analogous, but because I don't get the analogy that you're trying to make between that and this, but I'll do the best that I can.
The Supreme Court said that it was impermissible for any state in the United States, and I disagree with all of this. The Supreme Court said that it was impermissible for any state to ban abortive practices in the first trimester. That was what Roe v. Wade said. Yet y'all in the Tennessee...
There was no criminal penalty associated with that, Matt. But it was a Supreme Court case.
But if we had your way, then we would throw you in jail for violating what was...
Well, then you need to go back to when the federal government passed a federal statute that makes it a felony. Tom Homan talks about this every time he's on TV. Tom Homan says, if you impede the effort of me to come into your community and get these violent people out of your community, then I'm going to charge you with a felony. And that's already in the law right now.
And if the federal statute already exists, then what is the necessity for the state?
So that our state prosecutors can prosecute it just like the Federal Department of Justice.
But that is
frequently.
That is a state entity hindering the federal government.
No, it's not.
No. That's exactly why they have the federal law in place. That a state or a local entity cannot hinder the federal government from doing what is clearly federal under the purview of the federal government.
Our state statute mirrors federal law
in
a myriad of cases. It's not uncommon for us to have a similar law on the books.
Immigration law is covered by whom? The federal government, first and foremost.
Yes, but we have a state statute that was passed by the General Assembly, overwhelmingly making it illegal for a local government, a local political subdivision, or anyone elected at the local level to impede federal officers from doing their job. And that's good public policy for the state of Tennessee to have.
Why can you not remedy this in the judicial system? Why can't you just simply remedy it by saying, going to the courts and saying, the ordinance that this local municipality passed is clearly illegal per state statute, per federal law, and it needs to be thrown out? Why do you have to remedy it by threatening to put people in jail?
Well, for the same reason Tom Homan does. For the same reason that the federal borders are appointed by President Trump is saying that every time he's on TV.
Jack, you guys were telling me that y'all didn't have the authority to go into businesses and round up illegal aliens because it was the job of the federal government.
That's right.
And now you're telling me that it is your job.
No, I'm not. Don't put words in my mouth. I never said that. What we're saying is that you cannot impede the efforts of those federal authorities to come in and do their job.
I understand that, but why not allow the federal government to do what is clearly its job on its own?
We want them to.
So you understand how it makes your position and my position harder when you're threatening to put city councilors or local municipality governance in jail.
Well, I hope it never comes to pass. I hope it's not an issue. I hope no one elected at the local level in the state of Tennessee decides that they want to thwart the efforts of the federal immigration enforcement officials to come in and get the bad guys out of their community.
Well, I mean, I hope so too.
I do want our local DAs to be able to prosecute them if they deem it appropriate. And they have prosecutorial discretion, just like the Department of Justice does. And I suspect that the Federal Department of Justice probably would come in and prosecute someone if they did it, because it's a felony under federal law. And we just want to have it mirrored that way in state law.
And understand, you and I agree on the principal points on all of this. I disagree with criminalizing elected officials breaking the law.
It's breaking the law.
No. You guys did it with the abortion deal,
now,
Jack.
I don't buy that analogy, Matt. I don't.
You parked the abortion bill. You knew that it was going to be challenged. You knew it would be parked. Y'all passed it knowing that it was not going to pass muster per the Supreme Court. I'm just using it as an example.
No one in the state of Tennessee violated any law by passing that. It was a federal court decision that rendered abortion legal pursuant to Roe v. Wade. And we did pass a law that ended up being, among many other states, to go and be a test case. That's a far different scenario. I don't accept the analogy at all that it mirrors what we did right here. It's a violation of federal law. We want state law to mirror the same thing so that if someone violates it, Pam Bondi could come in with the Department of Justice and prosecute that locally elected official. Why shouldn't a local DA be able to do the same thing?
Does this not give the federal government, should, God forbid, a Democrat get elected, sort of the same type of authority over states like Tennessee's? I mean, if a Democrat's elected on the federal level, what you are suggesting is if a federal law is passed, that in some way...
No, I'm not saying that. You have federal laws that are on the books that are prosecuted by federal law enforcement, FBI, DEA, federal agencies.
And immigration is a uniquely federal It is a uniquely federal.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is. But it is completely reasonable, and it is absolutely good policy for the Tennessee General Assembly to say to our partners in local government, we are going to cooperate.
Where's
and
this happening?
if you don't cooperate, then you could be prosecuted by the Federal Department of Justice, or you could be prosecuted by state DA.
Where is it happening?
Where's what happening?
What municipalities are passing laws?
Well, it's been largely moot for the last 4 years, and even prior to that, because we didn't have a federal Immigration and Custom Enforcement agency that was doing its job. It was better under the first Trump administration, but even under Bush and Clinton and Obama, you didn't have it happening. That's why this is needed, Matt. This is extraordinary. I recognize it is, and it's something we've not done before, but it is warranted because this issue is the number one issue on the minds of Tennesseans and Americans, is to get these violent people out of our communities. And no local elected official should stand in the way of doing that.
But it's not happening in any local community right now that you know of in Tennessee.
To my knowledge, Tom Homan has not come in with ICE to any of our communities yet to start rounding up these violent people. But we expect that to happen in the very near future. We hope it does anyway.
If Tom Homan does his job, all of this feels largely performative to me.
Well,
I mean, it's just...
I disagree. It's not. It's not performative. It's good public policy, and it mirrors state law with what's already in federal law, and we should be able to do that.
Jack, you and I agree on a lot of things. We'll disagree on this, and I appreciate the spirited debate, my friend.
Absolutely.
All right, I'm very late, and I apologize to everybody behind that piece of glass, but I loved the conversation with Jack Johnson. We'll be back in just a moment.
The Chad Benson Show, Monday from noon to 3, and streamed on the Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Guys, I'm so pleased to talk to you about my friend Shane Ring at Cover Nash. He's located right here in Middle Tennessee and is a local expert when it comes to not only opting into health plans, but also becoming educated on what plans you need and how much you really should be spending on any medical procedures or any medical visits. I'm excited about this. When you book your appointment with Shane Ring, he'll go over all of the available health plan options in the market to help you shop for coverage based on your health and your financial need. No more call center agents wasting your time, wasting your bills that you were never told that you would get. With Shane Ring at Cover Nash, he's going to teach you how to earn money with your health plan, literally earn money with your health plan. I've sat with Shane in his offices in Brentwood, and I learned so much about the incredible unnecessary costs that many of us pay and how you can easily avoid that. I've watched him do his job. I've watched him do his business. Taking control of your health coverage has never been easier with Shane Ring and Cover Nash. So don't wait to make the call to see how much you could save right now. Give Shane a call at Cover Nash, 615-465-0023. That's 465-0023, or visit covernash.com and book your appointment with one of their agents today. Create a health care plan that is managed by you, not by the government, with Cover Nash.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in, and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast and traffic coming up in 5 minutes. Right now in Nashville, Channel 4 Sharon Dankwa at the Parthenon says at least 36 people are protesting President Trump's illegal immigration crackdown.
Now, I spoke to the leader of this group here, and she says the group is here organizing, saying that they're helping fellow immigrants feel like they're standing in unity during a time where they feel like the whole rest of the country is against them.
Meanwhile, State Senate Majority Leader Jack Johnson telling WTN's Matt Murphy show Governor Lee may sign that new illegal immigration legislation this week. It sets up a central immigration enforcement division in the Department of Safety.
We put a sunset on it. It may not be something we need into perpetuity, but we wanted to make sure that there is a point person or persons for all the stakeholders across the state can go to get their questions answered. What do we do about this? How do we do this? If ICE is going to come into our state, they can notify them and say, hey, we're going to be executing raids in this community or that community, and here's the intel we have, or whatever. So we want to make sure that that's all being cooperated with at the local level.
Meanwhile, in our nation's capital,
President Trump posted on social media he will not move forward on Tuesday with the tariffs he announced on Canada, saying they'll be paused for a 30-day period. The president said he spoke to Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who told him Canada would be implementing a $1.3 billion border plan, which includes enhanced coordination with the U.S. and increased resources to stop the flow of fentanyl. This plan had already been announced by Canada in December. A 25% tariff on all Canadian products coming into the U.S. was set to go into effect Tuesday, as well as a 10% tariff on Canadian oil and gas.
Now, Trump paused tariffs on Mexico, too, after its president announced 10,000 Mexican troops to help secure the southern border. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hello, friends. It's Matt Murphy for U.S. Pest. My man, J.K. Brister, Erica Brister, and the team at U.S. Pest, they understand that bugs are a problem in Tennessee. And believe it or not, it'll get warm before you know it, and they will pop up outside. They'll come inside. They're already inside your house if you don't have pest protection through U.S. Pest. And, oh, by the way, if you have pest protection from anybody else in the industry, U.S. Pest wants to demonstrate to you how good, how superior they are with regard to their pest control. That's why they're going to let you switch over, and it's a $200 value. They're not going to charge you for the first month of that switch over. It is a great value. Go to uspest.com to find out more about it, or give them a call at 590-1260. That's 590-1260 in the 615 area code. Call the friendly folks of U.S. Pest and get those bugs out of your life. They're little communists. You don't want them in your home. Get them out of there with U.S. Pest. Go to uspest.com.
I-24 westbound in Laverne, a crash partially blocking the on-ramp from Old Hickory Boulevard. And then in Murfreesboro, a crash blocking the left shoulder, 24 eastbound, right before 840. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I need Jack to Jack and I have continued our robust debate into the break, and I apologize to Ken Weaver for being late. I apologize for those of you in the listening audience that get uncomfortable when things get testy. And I just wanted, I begged of Jack, the last thing he said to me right before we came back is, "Am I still on? Are we still doing?"
Do I need to leave?
I just want to make look. I
don't want to get kicked out. I know you have kicked people out.
I did not kick her out. She left of her own volition. And so I just want to know, Jack and I are good. We're very passionate people, and I think at the crux of it, and I want to make sure that people understand, I agree with the federal policy. I agree with implementation in the way that you and I agree on almost all of this except for the criminal piece. And I have a problem with the concept of putting elected officials in jail because they're dumb or because they're wrong.
And we're not doing that. I agree with you wholeheartedly. We should have no laws on the books that put anyone in jail for being wrong or disagreeing with us on an issue, and no one's doing that. I didn't sponsor any legislation that does that. We're putting people in jail for violating federal law. Mm-hmm. That's the key difference. I believe in the debate clause of the Constitution. I believe I'm an elected official. I mean, this could be applied to me if it's mishandled. I want to be able to vote my conscience. I want anyone to be able to say what they want to say. But I cannot, in my official capacity as a Tennessee state senator, violate the law.
Voting is not violating the law as the law is written, at least on the federal level. You have to actively prevent the federal government from doing its job.
Exactly. And no disagreement there. And enacting policies that impede or thwart the ability of the Trump administration and Tom Homan to come in and get the illegals out of our community is currently a violation of federal law. It's a violation of state law. You know what we did? We put a little kicker in there and actually put some teeth in it. That's really all we did, because under the current statute, violation of this means you don't get ECD grants. That's the current enforcement mechanism. So, you know what? Yeah, we did put a pretty stiff penalty in there. So don't do it, and then it won't be an issue.
Are you going to get in? I mean, if this should happen, and we establish that it's kind of not happening anywhere in the state right now, but you just want to make sure that it doesn't. I think that's your position.
And again, it's been relatively moot because ICE has not been doing its job.
Right.
President Trump is going to do his job, and Tom Homan is going to do his job, and so the importance of this has reached a whole new level. I recognize this is somewhat unprecedented. It's somewhat extraordinary, but we are in unusual times.
I don't understand how, and I guess this is, and I don't mean to say, well, I won't say it the way I wanted to say it. I don't feel like you're getting in front of the parade, except that it seems less important now. It seemed important then Now, if Tom Homan's doing his job and the federal government's doing their job, they will handle that. They're going to arrest the people.
I hope so. And if so, then there will be no prosecution under state law. And that, again, I said this earlier.
So y'all won't get in front of the feds.
There are a lot of instances where it is a violation of federal law to do X, and it's a violation of state law to do X. And you know what happens when somebody violates that law? Typically, if the FBI is coming in and they're going to enforce it and they're going to prosecute the person, state DA says, okay, y'all handle it. Sometimes they prosecute them jointly. Sometimes, for whatever reason, the federal government won't prosecute them, but we want to empower our local state DAs to be able to prosecute people if they deem it appropriate.
And you believe that, and I think the law is probably written a little differently, but if the Shelby County in Memphis, I'm just trying to pick a county that might do this, if they try to pass some sort of sanctuary deal and it fails, you don't believe that the people that may be voted in the minority will be threatened in any way?
Let me read it to you. This is the existing statute that we've had on the books for several years.
Okay.
No local government entity or official shall adopt or enact a sanctuary policy. So it's a fair question, and the way I read that is that a prosecutor probably wouldn't pursue it because they didn't enact it. You got to have a majority vote. The body's got to vote definitively and affirmatively to pass a policy. So I would think I would want to be able to confer with our legal folks, but in that instance, they didn't enact it. But if a local governing body enacts a policy that it says they're not going to cooperate or they're going to impede the ability of Tom Homan to come in and do his job, then they could be prosecuted.
I mean, and I'm not trying to. I mean, I love you to death. I'm not trying to be unfair in creating things that I would consider to be analogous, but I'm trying to help people understand it's not about immigration law for me. Jack and I are right on board with Tom Homan and the federal government. Sure. Nobody is disagreeing on any of that. I've said it before. I don't want to get hung up on it. I get bothered by the piece that an elected official be thrown in jail as a result. And the example that comes to my mind is when Republicans stood up against George Wallace in Alabama on the segregation piece, and local Republicans voted against it. And I would just perish the thought that George Wallace had the ability to jail his political opponents because he believed that they were voting in a way that was in violation of state law.
Yeah, well, and fair. And I certainly don't want anything to appear analogous or in that in any way would be similar to that situation that you just laid out. Here's how I'm looking at it. And perhaps I'm oversimplifying it, but this is what my constituents are telling me they want. They want us to cooperate with the Trump administration. They want our local officials from the state level all the way down to the smallest sheriff's department or smallest city police department to cooperate with Donald Trump and Tom Homan and get the violent illegal aliens out of our communities. And that's what led to us having a conversation. We already have that law in the books. It's already there, but there's no penalty there. You lose ECD grants. So, yeah, we did put a stiff penalty in there, and I stand behind it. I think it was the right thing to do.
So I'll go back to this question again. Perish the thought, but we have some Democrat in the White House, and they throw out a bunch of executive orders basically telling ICE to stand down. Is it then the obligation of the state of Tennessee to stand down?
Well, you mean should the state
consistent with the intellectual thought process behind this law, then it would suggest to me that if a Democrat in the White House says,
like we've had for the last 4 years.
Like we had is that why the state of Tennessee was standing down? Because they had to stand down?
Stand down in what regard?
In terms of you're not going to enforce immigration law as it exists on the books because the federal government refuses to do so.
Well, we don't have the means nor the ability to deport people from the United States of America. Our law enforcement encounters illegal immigrants every single day, sometimes violent illegal immigrants,
right.
And they're prosecuted in our court system. That happens every single day. The way the process is supposed to work is that they're supposed to notify ICE, and whatever type of adjudication takes place relative to the crime that they've committed, and then ICE comes, they do a detainer warrant, and ICE comes, picks that person up once they've settled their debt to our society, and they're deported from the country. Mm-hmm. That's how it's supposed to work. Now, that's not the way it's worked for the last 4 years,
right.
But we think that's going to change. And it already is changing in communities all across America, and I'm so incredibly excited to see it. And I think most Tennesseans are as well. So we want to send the message that we are going to cooperate at all levels of government. And anyone who tries to step in and say, no, we're going to impede immigration and custom enforcement from coming in and get these people out of our communities, that they're going to have to face stiff consequences.
All right, I want to leave on a high note, and I'm looking at line 1, and I think line 1 represents a high note because, the best part of this conversation today was me suggesting that, CIED be changed to iced tea. And I don't want to steal Kurt's thunder because hey, Kurt, are you there?
I'm here.
All right, here's Kurt, Jack. Kurt, you're on with Senate Majority Leader Jack Johnson. Kurt, go ahead and tell Jack what I did today.
I guess you suggested the new acronym.
I did. You can go ahead and say it, Kurt. I stole your idea.
No, it's fine. I just sent a little suggestion to you about iced tea because it has a great Southern ring to it.
Kurt,
we're in a world of acronyms these days, and
Kurt was the first one. He mentioned this to me on social media, and I told him, I said, if you don't call in the 3 o'clock hour and steal your idea by the time Jack gets here, and I did.
You did.
It was your idea. You thought of this, the Immigration Customs Enforcement Division of Tennessee, iced tea.
I like it.
I like it.
I really do. I mean, I like it. We're going to have to go back.
I'll shut up about all of the rest of it if you could just make this happen.
That would be great. I think it's pretty sweet.
Well, I just
well done, Kurt.
I wanted to get you on to give you full credit, Kurt.
Well, hey, I want to thank you for that, and I also want to thank you for having Senator Johnson on, and I want to thank Senator Johnson for coming on because it's robust conversations like y'all had that, really keep listeners tuning into WTN.
Well, and thank you for saying that, Kurt. I mean, I know that, look, we are passionate people, and I want to say to Jack Johnson that I appreciate his passion on any and every issue, and Jack and I agree on about 99% of everything. And so to focus in on something that we disagree doesn't mean that we're enemies or that we're not full speed ahead with implementation of Trump policies and policies of the state of Tennessee. It means that, we just have a little bit of a philosophical disagreement about how best to move the ball forward. That's okay. I hope you agree, Jack.
No, 100%. I'm grateful for the opportunity to come on and have more than a 15-second soundbite that you get on the nightly news when you get asked about something.
Oh,
like this,
no.
so.
Jack's just excited because he gets to go say, I was right. Murphy was wrong. You got to go listen.
No.
Oh, no. Look, it's good. It's what America's all about.
Absolutely.
All right, what happens in the general session?
Believe it or not, it is going to be busy. I always say, our budget and figuring out how to spend the tax dollars of the people of the state of Tennessee. We continue to prosper. We continue to thrive. The conservative policies we put in place over the last 10 to 15 years have made Tennessee one of the most moved-to states in America. People are moving their businesses here. Our economy is strong. We're the least indebted state, the lowest tax state in America, and we're going to keep it that way. And so it'll be a good conversation. It's hard to pick one single thing. We're kind of been obsessed with this special session, obviously. But very glad we got those three big issues behind us. So we're going to have a good session. The House started today. The Senate will start on Monday. Governor Lee will deliver his State of the State a week from tonight. In fact, about a week from about right now.
Yeah.
And so he'll lay out the rest of his agenda for the session. So more good stuff to come.
Thank you, Senator. We appreciate
Matt.
you. There's Senate Majority Leader Jack Johnson. Great discussion, great debate. We'll be back in just a moment, 20 minutes after the hour on Super Talk. Hello, friends. Matt Murphy for Defend Systems. Brink Fiddler is such a go-to resource for me and our community when it comes to sad situations involving shooting incidents, workplace violence, and the like. And I'm sad to tell you that these things are not going away anytime soon. Are you ready and prepared for the possibility? Now, no one is suggesting this is going to happen to you, least of all Brink. He understands that these are rare occurrences where there is a shooting, like we saw at Antioch High School last week, for example, or like we saw, sadly, at some other locations in and around the Nashville area in recent years. Bottom line is this. You need to be prepared because you are ultimately the first responder. You need to understand active shooter response, workplace violence prevention, site surveys, threat assessment, security improvement, emergency and intruder action plans. So I like to say that the likelihood of this happening is very, very low, but hope is not a plan, and the possibilities are not zero. Let's get trained with Defend Systems. Go to defendsystems.com or call 615-236-6484, 236-6484 for Defend Systems.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in, and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
It doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
After delaying tariffs on Mexico today, President Trump says he's also delaying import tariffs on Canada for 30 days. We'll tell you about it at 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Blame Canada! Blame Canada! Sorry, couldn't help myself. Thank you, Ken Weaver.
You're welcome there, Brother Murphy.
I loved the conversation with Jack Johnson. I know it got tense and testy there, but we remain friends.
That's a lively debate.
It was a lot. Well, and look, I mean, two very, one very intelligent person and me sitting in a room together and disagreeing on. Look, I agree on the immigration piece. I agree on the foundational elements of what they're trying to accomplish. I disagree with the idea of putting elected officials in jail because of a vote that they make on a body, a city council body. Now, if there's action behind that vote, that's a different thing. If you're physically or actively impeding the federal or state government from doing its job lawfully, that's a different thing. But a vote, I mean, that just lays wrong with me. And it's a small part of the immigration piece. He laid out some of the other aspects of it, which I agree with. Your thoughts? 615-737-9986. 9986. Chris says, funny thing is, I agree with you completely. I thought it was a very flagrant for them to call it a felony for the sanctuary city, but also I don't want sanctuary cities. Another Chris writes in, what if there was a Democrat in the White House and he or she uses executive orders to encroach on gun laws? What would happen then? Well, it's a good point. Gun laws would be slightly different only in as much as they are specifically prohibited by the Second Amendment of the Constitution, but I get what you're saying. Sheriff doesn't vote. No, but the sheriff is the enforcement wing of the whatever city. And that's the point, is that a sheriff would be a point where I would say yes, because if a sheriff is implementing the laws passed by the city council and doing so knowingly in violation of state or federal statute, then you can go after the sheriff. Secondarily, and look, I don't want to belabor it, and Jack made his point very eloquently and very passionately. I think I made mine as well. I feel like there is a remedy through the court systems on all of this, as opposed to the remedy of creating a felony to vote on the matter. And according to my reading and what Jack said, it is a felony to vote, even if you're in the minority, even if the vote doesn't ultimately pass. But for a sheriff to actively attempt to prevent the federal government from doing its job, it's a little bit different. It's kind of a one-off in as much as we consider immigration policy to be solely under the purview of the federal government. So states are there to support, but states are expected to act in a support role, and they are not to do anything not supported by what the federal government wants their policies to be. So if the federal government wants to initiate a robust roundup-style policy like Donald Trump and Tom Homan has initiated, well, that's one thing, and the states are there to support that. And part of what I asked Jack was, so if it's a Democrat in the White House and they take a very laissez-faire attitude about all of this, does that change things? I think it does change things in terms of what the state could or could not do, because we saw it under the Biden administration. We saw it before Biden under the Obama administration, where certain states were trying to get a handle on. I mean, I remember out in Texas, there were several court cases in Texas, and Texas did something rather ingenious. They hooked on to the ID system as a way to create harm in the state of Texas. I want to say this was Brownville, where this case it went up to the Supreme Court, and Texas won this argument. They said, well, they're harmed because if you allow illegals into the country and you don't vet them, then eventually the state of Texas is expected to give them identification, and that comes at a cost to the state of Texas. So anyway, if you have any thoughts on it, 615-737-9986. 4859 says we should have the ability to make our own laws outside of the reach of the federal government. Well, I mean, you can and you should outside of that which is specifically allowed by, under the purview of, or denied by the Constitution of the United States of America. Everything comes from the Constitution, right? And the Founding Fathers were brilliant because they said these are the roles of the federal government. This is what the federal government can do. And oh, by the way, here in the Bill of Rights, we're going to tell you what the federal government specifically cannot do. And everything else, we're going to leave up to the states. The states can figure all of that out. 50 great experiments, or at the time wasn't 50, but now 50 great experiments, and allow those states to determine their course and their future on their own, so long as it's not covered by the Constitution of the United States or prevented by it. It is 5:30. It's time for the news on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. After delaying tariffs on Mexico today, President Trump now says he's also delaying import tariffs on Canada for 30 days. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau telling Trump Canada will be implementing a $1.3 billion border plan, which he says includes enhanced coordination with the U.S. and increased resources to stop the flow of fentanyl. This plan had already been announced by Canada in December. Meanwhile, Mexico says it is going to send 10,000 troops to their northern border and work harder on the flow of drugs into the United States. This is a 30-day pause. Trump wants to see how it works out. Marine Corps Corporal Temple Williams on setting up a migrant deportation center that may eventually hold up to 30,000 people in Cuba.
This is what we train for. We at a moment's notice, we get the call. We were in the field training for something like this, and it happened. We stay ready, and we're ready to go, and here we are.
150 Marines landed today after taking off from Marine Corps Air Station Cherry Point in North Carolina yesterday. And a plan to merge U.S. aid with the State Department already well underway. U.S. aid staffer Christina Dry is a speechwriter for the agency, says she's locked out of her computer without notice.
Friday, we heard that DOJ was here taking down the signs, and then Saturday, all of the websites went down, and then I lost complete access to my computer.
Yeah, this is White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt.
I don't know about you, but as an American taxpayer, I don't want my dollars going towards this crap, and I know the American people don't either, and that's exactly what Elon Musk has been tasked by President Trump to do, to get the fraud, waste, and abuse out of our federal government.
Astronomers worldwide say it's no cause for panic, but an asteroid the size of an office building is predicted to skim through our solar system in about 8 years. The odds of impact still very low, 1 in 1,000 chance of actually hitting the Earth. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Picked up a new crash, 24 eastbound at Briley Parkway. Then in Berry Hill, we got one 440 eastbound at 65. In Laverne, 24 westbound, it's the on-ramp from Old Hickory Boulevard. The on-ramp there partially blocked. And in Murfreesboro, an accident blocking the right shoulder, 24 westbound after Joe B. Jackson Parkway. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hello, friends. It's Matt Murphy. I want you to go see Mark, or one of his fine teammates at Nashville Safe House. Mark is oftentimes there. He's the owner of the joint. Been there for like 30 years now, and he's sold more safes than you can shake a stick at, has more safes than you can shake two sticks at. I mean, he's got 200 in stock right there on the showroom floor, and then another almost 400 back in the warehouse. These are safes, quality safes of all brands, all shapes, all sizes. I mean, they've got things like, Browning, of course, just the best in the business with fire ratings and whatnot. Fort Knox, Champion, Superior, Rhino. I mean, all right there for you. A shape or a size of a gun safe or a commercial safe or a jewelry safe for you and for your budget. Go by and browse the incredible selection. You can also go to NashvilleSafeHouse.com and check it out there. Remember that gun safes are always sales tax free at Nashville Safe House. Mark wants you to protect those things that protect the people in your home, and the good way to do that is to get a gun safe at Nashville Safe House. Whatever you're looking for, they've got it across the street from City Cemetery, online from anywhere, NashvilleSafeHouse.com or 4th Avenue South.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Got nincompoops in the news on the way. Opportunity for Ken Weaver, Chris Webber, Matt Murphy to lighten the load. Many people are angry at me.
Done it again, Murphy.
I know. It's okay. Not everybody, but some. I think I have found the angriest text message, though.
Oh, yeah?
Y'all want to hear the angriest one?
I love those.
Can you read it on the air?
I can.
All
I
right.
can. I mean, well, there's one. It's obvious that Matt Murphy's impossible to prove wrong. Can we please change this up? And I get a lot of those. I mean, I understand. I mean, if I really think I'm right on something, like I was told one time, you know what your problem is, Murphy? You always think you're right. It's like, well,
well, yeah.
Well, I mean,
doesn't everybody?
I thought, but I mean, I guess I'm just a little louder about it. But no. This is the one that's going to keep me up tonight. Matt M. I'm about 26 minutes late texting this, but I was driving. You're fired. Bring Brian back. Actually, he didn't say Brian. He said Brian, but I'll forgive him the typo. Bring Brian back.
You're not helping your case.
You have a lot to learn, Matt. I don't care how many years you say you've been doing this. You are arrogant. You were clearly in the wrong. If you would just zip it and listen, maybe you would get what he was saying. But you're closed-minded, and you're yelling over someone trying to explain it to you is pitiful. I wish they would fire you because you never change.
Goodness.
Yikes. Clearly that conversation, no, this is worse. Not only does he want me fired, he said clearly that conversation should have been a call-in to the Dan Mandis show. Now, it's one thing. It's one thing to wish me fired, but don't bring up Dan Mandis. Grow up and let people talk. Stop screaming over them while they keep themselves calm and collected. While talking to you, I'm sure you will have something smart to say about my text. But that's expected out of you with your attitude. Y'all want to know what I wrote him?
Yes.
I wrote him back. And I said, I'm sorry that you feel this way. I will try to do better, not only as a host, but also as a man. Thank you for the note and for listening when you were able. That was my response.
Oh, that was pretty nice there, brother.
Well,
Murphy.
I mean,
very adult of you.
I try to do what I can. I mean, I understand that sometimes it gets a little tense, and that's not for everybody. But it is what it is. You know what isn't very tense? Nincompoops in the news.
Ah, yes.
That's lighten the mood here. I'm a little tense because I have not pulled up my nincompoop story yet. I have it. I've just got to get it up.
Oh, yeah?
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Oh,
sure.
it's good, too. It's good. It's a good one.
It's the best you've ever heard.
Oh, it's a winner. Absolute winner. Y'all just go ahead and write in Matt Murphy as the winner of Nincompoops in the News today because I got the story of the day.
Good luck with that after you've PO'd a bunch of people. You're not going to win, buddy.
Well, I mean, the guy that just said he wanted me fired.
He's probably not going to vote for you.
What you
I don't
fired?
know. It's a good story. Before y'all fire me, listen to my story. But I'm not going first. I'm going to leave it between Chris Webber and Ken Weaver to decide who gets
Whatever you want to do, Brother Chris.
I'll go first.
All right.
You guys remember the subway fire killer guy in New York City that just heinously lit the woman on fire on the subway?
Yes.
Well, if you didn't know this, back before this guy was caught, the NYPD had a highly publicized reward offering, $10,000 for anyone leading to give information leading to the arrest of this guy.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so it was actually a trio of high school basketball players who spotted this guy on an F-bound train, a Queens-bound F train, rather, hours after he burned the woman to death, and were told by the reward administrators that they were ineligible for the cash reward because they called 911 to report the sighting instead of the Crime Stoppers tip line.
Oh.
What?
Yeah, before this guy was busted for his attack, they, publicized this $10,000 reward, and then they called it into 911. The guy was subsequently arrested, obviously, and he will go to court and face charges and that sort of thing. A detective with the 60th precinct in New York City says that he was adamant that the police didn't have anything to do with the $10,000 prize, and he referred the families of the young men that called it in to Crime Stoppers. said you need to contact them, which advertised that the cash was for a tip that leads to the arrest and the indictment. But a representative for the tip agency dashed the family's hopes by allegedly claiming they weren't entitled to the funds because the young man called 911 instead of the much more convoluted 800-577-TIPS line. A father of one of these young men said they didn't even know about the tip line. He says, look, if I see something happening in front of me, I'm not going to try to look up the hotline. I'm going to call 911.
Yeah,
exactly.
Which I think everyone would.
Yes.
City council member in New York gets involved. They say that, called on the NYPD to make this right, to step up. The NYC Police Foundation did not respond to a request for comment, but did disclose that there have been times in the past in which a reward has been given to those who called 911 instead of the Crime Stoppers line. I don't know if this has been made right yet because this is a few weeks old. But, yeah, that's just terrible. We're going to tie things up with semantics.
So the entire purpose of the Crime Stoppers line is to encourage people to call in crimes.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And to catch criminals.
Exactly.
And so what do you think is going to be the residual effect if they're going to pick nits? I mean, come on.
People are going to say, okay, screw it. I'm not going to call in.
I'm not going to look up I could call 911, but I'm not going to get my reward, so to heck with that.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't call 1-800.
It's just ridiculous to me.
That's just ridiculous.
Hopefully they make it right and they reward these guys for calling that in.
Absolutely. Oh, you know what? One way or the other, they'll get rewarded. Because if they deny them, now that this story is out in Nashville and beyond, absolutely. By the way, before you go, Ken, Phil has written in, I vote Ken Weaver. See what we deal with every day, Chris?
Why do we even bother?
Why do we even bother?
Yeah.
Somebody's already voting for Weaver.
And I haven't done anything yet.
Well, let's go, Ken. Let's go.
All right. I've got a lot of nincompoops in this story, and it stems from Saturday whenever everybody thought there was a shooter at Opry Mills Mall and just sparked a stampede out of there.
Mm-hmm.
So today, Metro Police issued a press release. They said that 29-year-old Alexandria Dady surrendered herself last night in connection with Saturday afternoon's panicked mass exodus from Opry Mills Mall. Dady is charged with kidnapping and aggravated assault after she attacked her ex-boyfriend. Here's how she did it. She went inside the Chili's, where he's apparently a cook. He was in the kitchen. And she threw a glass at him, at his head.
He was working?
Yes.
Oh, no.
He sticks up his right arm, and it shatters and slices his arm and his wrist. Then he goes outside where his ex-girlfriend, Dady, and another woman force him into a Dodge Charger.
Really?
Oh.
And they apparently take off with him.
Huh.
They later, I should not be laughing. They later let him off where his current girlfriend actually picked him up.
I'm sorry.
On Bonnet Creek Drive.
Wait, so she eventually, they did not take him to the current girlfriend's house or something. Maybe.
It doesn't say that, but I'm wondering what happened to this dude while he was in the car.
Yeah.
I mean, she's already thrown a glass at his head, punching him, screaming at him there in the workplace.
I'm sure it was very civil.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They worked it out. I'm sure.
That's right.
Yeah.
Very calm.
Yeah. So apparently the sound of all this commotion is what had everybody thinking there might have been gunfire. 40 cops responded to Opry Mills Saturday, and they had to go store by store clearing it, to make sure there's not a shooter in there.
Yep.
Police have to get all this worked out. So anyway, they got it all worked out. There wasn't a shooter, thank goodness. However, the suspect in this, 29-year-old Alexandria Dady, before running into a place of business to attack her ex-boyfriend, according to police, is an ex-con for aggravated assault, evading arrest, reckless endangerment involving a deadly weapon.
She sounds like a real peach.
Yeah.
So now she's got these new charges and is free on $40,000 bond.
I can't imagine why he broke up with her.
No.
You know what I mean?
No.
That's the kind of woman you hold on to.
I mean, that's right. Glass throwing, screaming, yelling.
Yep.
You know, this has happened. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of nincompoops to go around in that story, but it has happened a couple of times just in my short time in Nashville.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
That when a disruption happens in Opry Mills Mall, whatever reason, whether it's just the acoustics, you know, it was one time where they eventually blamed it on people running out of the food court and chairs clattering on the ground.
The metal chairs.
The metal chairs.
Yep. That was about a year ago, it seems like.
Resembled gunfire.
Yeah.
And I drove past that, and let me tell you, the response, because I was coming back from that chili cook-off, and the response, what they had like I think 2 lanes of 155 Briley Parkway blocked out.
Yeah.
And the backup of traffic because everybody was trying to get the hell out of the mall at once.
Yeah.
Imagine, look at all the lost money over this.
Oh, my goodness.
Because, I mean, there was no commerce going on during all this.
Yeah.
I mean,
I wouldn't
several hours.
I wouldn't think anyway.
I just don't, and maybe it's not for us to put ourselves in the mindset of somebody that, I mean, she's obviously already, a felon?
Yeah,
Ken?
she's convicted of aggravated assault, evading arrest, reckless endangerment involving deadly weapon, traffic offenses.
Think about the amount of time that it took for her to drive to the mall, to get out of her car, to walk into the mall, to walk through the mall, to get to the Chili's, to walk through the Chili's, to get to the thing. I mean, and what did you think was going to happen after you did all of that? Was it that necessary for you to satisfy that emotional urge that now you're going to go to jail?
This fella must be something else.
Let's ask that new girlfriend.
Yeah.
All right, well, I don't know that I can compete with that, ladies and germs, but I've got this. Yesterday was Groundhog Day, and we all know that Puxatawny Phil comes out of his little whatever it is, and, you know, if he sees his shadow or doesn't see his shadow. What you might not know about is another tradition on February the 2nd. And that tradition involves Scramble the Duck.
What?
Scramble the Duck. Every year on February the 2nd in Connecticut, comes out of his house to predict the weather. He looks for his shadow to predict an early spring or 6 more weeks of winter. A shadow means 6 more weeks of winter. No shadow means an early spring. Scramble, it says here on his official website, scrambletheduck.org, can predict the weather because he has the most superior education. He graduated from Stormy Heights Academy, the most superior school of weather prediction. Not only did Scramble go to Stormy Heights Academy, but he was also valedictorian of his class of 2015, graduating with a Ph. Duck in weather prediction.
I was getting ready to say, is valedictorian or valedictorian?
Oh, that's good, Ken. I should have thought of that.
Well, I'm late.
Because of his superior education, Scramble is the weather predictor that you can trust. The entire state of Connecticut is my nincompoop for supporting and promoting this absolute garbage. Everybody knows that the go-to weather prediction critter is the marmot, the groundhog.
Yeah.
Everybody knows.
Yeah. Yep. Little fat groundhog.
Now, I understand that if you want to go Puxatawny Phil, I think Georgia had one for a while, like Beauregard Bill or whatever it's called.
General Beauregard Lee.
Yeah, there you go. General Beauregard Lee was his name. I mean, so, you know, I can have a reasonable discussion with someone that wants to argue who the better groundhog prognosticator might be. But a duck? Come on.
They got him sitting up on top of a folding table with a white tablecloth on it. That tablecloth ain't going to be white for long.
Everybody knows that groundhogs predict the weather. So, Connecticut is my nincompoop in the news. There you go. There you vote. 615-737-9986. 615-737-9986. That's how we play nincompoops in the news. 52 after the hour. Super Talk 99.7. WTN. Hello, friends. Matt Murphy here for Dr. Stephen Poss, Dr. Brian McLaughlin, and the Sleep Apnea and the TMJ Solution Center. So, do you know if you have sleep apnea? If you know, I want to talk to you if you know. If you don't know, do you snore a lot? Do you find yourself waking up quite a bit in the night? Do you think you might be losing your breath as you wake up in the night? If you think any of these things, you need to have a sleep test to determine whether you have sleep apnea. And if you have sleep apnea and you find yourself unable to wear a CPAP machine, or just don't believe, like I did, that you can wear a CPAP machine, mild to moderate sleep apnea can be taken care of with an FDA-approved oral device presented by Dr. Brian McLaughlin, Dr. Stephen Poss, and the Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solution Center. They do a 3D screening of your mouth, and they customize an oral device specific to your mouth and your teeth. It gently holds your jaw forward. It helps to keep the airways of your neck and throat open, meaning you breathe throughout the course of the night. You don't stop breathing. You don't snore as much, so your partner is satisfied as well. There are 2 locations to serve you, Brentwood and Murfreesboro. Odds are you are in network with your insurance, so this is covered through your insurance. Let's get this handled, folks, and sleep and breathe better in 2025. With the Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solution Center, go to drposs.com. That's drposs.com.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Well, the first Marines have landed at Guantanamo Bay to set up an illegal deportation center. I'll tell you about that and more coming up at 6 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Oh, and just after 6 o'clock, man, the liberal media on high alert. Then Donald Trump's messing with people's lives. The prices of groceries are going to go through the roof. And, I mean, before they get the sentences out of their mouths, Canada and Mexico's already said, no, don't do it. It's a fascinating. I mean, it is so fascinating.
I'm not going to say which one, but one of our local TV stations had already prepared a big old list of prices.
So you put yourself in a position. You hate Trump so much. I mean, maybe I don't know. Maybe this is just the way the world works now. But you hate Trump so much that you put yourself in a position for rooting against him making a deal that benefits the United States of America, that keeps fentanyl out of our country. And you find yourself, if you find yourself disappointed that Canada and Mexico made a deal with Donald Trump, then you might need to reassess your values a little bit. By the way, I've done the tally, man.
Wow, that was quick.
And Chris wins.
Hey, brother Chris.
Chris Weber, he just, I don't know where you and I were in the voting, but we lost. I mean, number 2. We were the first losers there, Weaver. So, well. You can't win them all, Weaver. Although you're trying.
Yeah,
I mean, Weaver's like 187 points ahead of either of us, and you're ahead of me, and I'm in last place. But heck, I'll be fired soon anyway. If my super text line is any indication. I think they'll let me stay until 7 o'clock tonight, though. I hope. We're back for the last hour after this.
Six o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Well, the first Marines have landed at the U.S. military facility Guantanamo Bay in Cuba to set up a migrant deportation center that could eventually hold up to 30,000 people.
Eventually, we knew we'd get that call. That call came down. So here we are getting ready to do the job.
Here in Nashville, Channel 4's Sharon Danquo was at the Parthenon where at least 36 people protested President Trump's illegal immigration crackdown.
Now, I spoke to the leader of this group here, and she says the group is here organizing, saying that they're helping fellow immigrants feel like they're standing in unity during a time where they feel like the whole rest of the country is against them.
Meanwhile, State Senate Majority Leader Jack Johnson tells WTN's Matt Murphy Show Governor Lee may sign that new illegal immigration legislation they passed in the special session this week. Sets up a central immigration enforcement division in the Department of Safety.
We put a sunset on it. It may not be something we need into perpetuity, but we wanted to make sure that there is a point person or persons for all the stakeholders across the state can go to get their questions answered. What do we do about this? How do we do this? If ICE is going to come into our state, they can notify them and say, hey, we're going to be executing raids in this community or that community, and here's the intel we have, or whatever. So we want to make sure that's all being cooperated with at the local level.
Meanwhile, in our nation's capital, Karen Travers.
President Trump posted on social media he will not move forward on Tuesday with the tariffs he announced on Canada, saying they'll be paused for a 30-day period. The president said he spoke to Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who told him Canada would be implementing a $1.3 billion border plan, which includes enhanced coordination with the U.S. and increased resources to stop the flow of fentanyl. This plan had already been announced by Canada in December. A 25% tariff on all Canadian products coming into the U.S. was set to go into effect Tuesday, as well as a 10% tariff on Canadian oil and gas.
Trump paused tariffs on Mexico after its president announced 10,000 Mexican troops to help secure the southern border. And with assisted dying statutes on the books in 10 states, 19 more are considering allowing people with fatal illnesses to decide when and where to die. Jim Ryan says Tennessee and Illinois have joined the debate.
The Right to Die proposal in Tennessee specifies that only adults suffering terminal illnesses may ask their doctors to intervene.
Other states have allowed people, as they enter in the last stage of life, to medically end their life.
Democratic state lawmaker Bob Freeman wants Tennessee to be the next 2 states away.
An important part of the pro-life movement is ensuring life is protected from conception to natural death.
Republican Chris Pritt is a lawmaker in West Virginia whose voters have changed the state constitution to ban physician-assisted dying.
That is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Seeing a crash 24 eastbound at Briley Parkway South. That's going to be exit 54. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is the Matt Murphy Show for the time being. 606 Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hello. Welcome in. Whether you're listening online, maybe you've got your app downloaded and you're carrying us around on your smartphone technology, wherever you might be, perhaps on 99.7 FM from the borders of Alabama to Kentucky and all points in between, or on Super Talk TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. We thank you for listening. I'm not wearing a burlap sack. This is a flannel shirt. It looks, I looked over and it looks kind of like a burlap sack that I'm wearing on my person. One way or the other, we thank you for being here for the final hour of the show. If you want a palate cleanser, I mean, just a palate cleanser, just a little something to get you off to your evening in the proper fashion before I infuriate you by showing you how liberals are reacting to the presidency of Donald Trump in the last hour. I just posted on my social medias, at Matt Murphy Show, on the X machine, at Matt Murphy Show. It's just a video. It's a video of, it's a Ring garage camera, and there's a dog inside of the garage, little dog, and this little kid rides up to the driveway in his bicycle, jumps off his bicycle, runs as fast as he can, runs up to the dog, hugs the dog, and then runs back to his bicycle, gets back on his bicycle, and leaves.
Very
Just
nice.
Sneaks him a little hug.
Yeah.
Little neighbor's kid. Sneaks him a little hug on the dog. I love it. Absolutely love it. We don't deserve dogs. I love them more than I love.
we do not.
I mean, I love dogs more than I love human beings. You know why I can?
Why is that?
They deserve it. That's why.
That's good reason.
That's exactly right. On the heels, speaking of immigration, and we were with Jack Johnson earlier today, heated conversation, lively conversation. On the heels of the special legislative session targeting immigration and heightened levels of uncertainty over immigration detention raids. This is from the Tennessean, so it's going to be written like that. Nashville's immigrant community is asking one question. What would a day without immigrants look like? The Day Without Immigrants rally, which aims to advocate for Nashville's immigrant and refugee communities, will take place Monday. Was it today? No.
What's the date?
February the 3rd.
That is today.
Well, this says Monday, though. It must be next Monday. It's got to be next Monday.
They had a big old gathering over there at the Parthenon.
Oh, today?
Yeah.
Oh, I missed it.
Yeah, it's about 3 dozen people.
Huh. Well, they had a big Day Without Immigrants rally, and we missed it. That's unfortunate. Too bad. Well, why in the world? What the Tennessean? You know what? I blame myself. I blame myself for assuming that they meant next week. That's too bad. So yeah, Monday today, I suppose, at the Centennial Park from 4 until 6 p.m. there was a pro-immigrant rally that was taking place. And this apparently was everywhere. Cities from Florida to Oregon, Indiana, supporters coming out in multitudes to stand with immigrants amid President Donald Trump's. Y'all understand that Donald Trump has passed no law. Donald Trump has no ability to pass a law. Donald Trump is the chief executive officer of the United States of America, in a sense. He is the head of the executive branch. As president of the United States of America, the executive branch implements the law as passed by the congressional branch of government, or more commonly referred to as the legislative branch of government. Donald Trump did not pass these immigration laws. Donald Trump is abiding by the current law. It is currently illegal to enter the United States of America without going through the proper process. And it might infuriate you, the complexity of that process, but it remains illegal to do so. And it's amazing to me how many leftists are howling at the notion that Donald Trump is actually following the law right now. Just because Joe Biden did not, and Barack Obama before Trump did not. So you understand? The law is what it is. And sure, it is up to the federal government in the form of the executive branch to determine where their priorities are going to be and how aggressive they're going to be in enforcing the law. But the law has not changed. And right now, immigrant groups, quote unquote, pro-immigrant groups, and some local communities and others seem to be shocked and dismayed that Donald Trump, as president, is going to follow the law that has been on the books for our entire lifetimes regarding illegal immigration and illegal status in this country. Does that mean that our entire lifetimes people have not been trying to exploit it and have been successful at exploiting it? Sure. I'm just amazed that people are pointing fingers at Trump and they're suggesting that he's being a tyrant, he's being a dictator, he's being an authoritarian. He's actually being more constitutional than Joe Biden ever thought of being. It is far more of a tyrannical way to govern to look at the Congress of the United States and say, I don't care what laws y'all passed, I'm not following those laws. Does that make sense to everyone? That Donald Trump is actually fulfilling the construct of the Constitution far more than Joe Biden ever did. Merely by saying, we're going to abide by the laws that are on the books. Now, to these immigrant groups that turned out, according to Ken Weaver, in the dozens at the Parthenon, or all across the country, if you happen to be listening elsewhere. If you don't like the law, if you don't like the idea of America with robust border security that actually vets people that come into this country, if you preferred it the manner in which Joe Biden engaged and conducted himself, If you prefer the fentanyl, if you prefer the gun trafficking, if you prefer the human smuggling, if you prefer the drug trade, if you prefer the gang members, if you prefer the unfettered access, if you prefer the murderers, if you prefer the rapists, if you prefer the terrorists, pass a law. Pass a law. All you got to do is go to the Congress of the United States of America and have them pass a law changing immigration policy and stating that America is to allow anybody that wants to come in to come in. Go ahead and do it. I'll wait. Oh, you don't have the votes? I am fascinated how much liberals claim to believe in democracy until such time as they don't seem to have the votes. Then they stop believing in democracy very much. That's when they start talking to us about human rights or some sort of God-given ability to come into this country unfettered by our ability to keep undesirables out. Pretty fascinating. In the meantime, speaking of liberals howling, here's Donald Trump from earlier today. This broke about an hour and a half ago. Donald Trump, speaking before the Faith and Freedom Coalition, had this to say about, here's what I would say before I play the clip. So there was a lot of conversation in our state specifically about, remember Penny Schwinn? Penny Schwinn was the head of the Department of Education in the state of Tennessee. Governor Bill Lee loves her. I don't find a lot of people involved in education or in the legislative body that actually liked her very much, but apparently Governor Lee did. And she resigned her position as head of the Department of Education in the state of Tennessee, and she apparently failed up in as much as she was picked to be one of the assistants to the Secretary of Education. Donald Trump picked her to be an underling to the Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon. You might not want to pack your bags there, Penny Schwinn, only because Donald Trump had this to say.
And I will shut down the federal Department of Education, and we will move everything back to the states where it belongs and where they can individualize education and do it with the love for their children.
They're going to chant USA. There he is, Donald Trump. Promises made, promises kept. He is saying that he will be signing an executive order that will dismantle the Department of Education. That is per the Washington Post today. So you will expect that liberals will howl about this as well, much as they howled about the U.S. aid program and the freeze of monies going into the United States Agency for International Development. How many of y'all, by a show of hands, and I'm going to admit, I've been doing this a long time, how many of y'all knew this organization existed up until maybe a year ago? I didn't. I do this for a living. The United States Agency for International Development, or USAID, is a, quote, independent agency of the United States government primarily responsible for administering civilian foreign aid and development assistance. It has a budget of over $50 billion a year, with a B. It is one of the largest official aid agencies in the world. It accounts for more than half of all U.S. foreign assistance, which is the highest in the world in terms of absolute dollars. The origins of this agency and organization are fascinating. Earlier this year, in January, President Donald Trump ordered a total freeze or a near total freeze on all foreign aid. Several days later, Secretary of State Marco Rubio issued a waiver for humanitarian aid. Despite that waiver, there was said to be confusion about what the agencies should do. On January 27th, the agency's government website was shut down. On February 3rd, that would be, wait, check your watch, today, Elon Musk announced in a Spaces conversation that he and Donald Trump were in the process of shutting down USAID. permanently. The Secretary of State came out earlier today and announced that he had been appointed acting administrator of USAID by Donald Trump, and the agency was being rolled into the State Department. Now, if you want to know what shrinking the size of government looks like, this is it. USAID currently is a bureaucratic agency with no purpose. All of this can be handled under the umbrella of the State Department. That's what the State Department is for, unless and until it becomes too cumbersome to handle, at which time perhaps it is too cumbersome to exist in terms of its proper goals and function. This is how government shrinks, folks. They will not go quietly into that good night. They are going to shrink, howling and screaming. It is why, it's a regular theme of my show that we talk about the natural state of government. It is government's natural state of being to grow. That is natural for government. Because once a program is in place, managed by government, that program is eventually, and it doesn't take very long, considered to be essential to the function of government. And once it is considered to be essential to the function of government, and a lot of people start getting paid through that agency, either as employees of the agency or beneficiaries of the agency, then in their minds it is vital and crucial. And if they have enough numbers, then politicians can scare the hell out of other politicians by running them away from the subject. One of the reasons that we've not tackled the debacle that is Social Security is because it is the best example of what I'm talking about. A government agency and a government program that at one time did not exist, but now that it does exist, it has become something that is considered to be a third rail of politics. Because any suggestion about manipulating it or managing it in a better way or devising a new system that would better manage our money or that's not ultimately a Ponzi scheme is so easily defeated at the polls. It is kind of a failure of the representative republic system in as much as enough people can be duped into voting a certain way that is ultimately against their best long-term interest. But government agencies, man, once they become a part of the government, look, to wit, the Department of Education, to wit, the Department of Energy. There's two easy examples that are useless. Useless. And ought to be dismantled on the federal level. I'll have more to say on this in just a moment. Your thoughts, your calls, your super text, 615-737-9986. Plus, how liberals are reacting to the first 2 weeks. Here's a tip. It ain't good. They're very upset. I'll share some of it in a moment on Super Talk. Friends, Grace Point Healthcare is affordable, convenient, and comprehensive medicine in a direct pay primary care provider format. That means that all of your treatment decisions are made between you and your medical provider, not your insurance company and certainly not pharmaceutical companies. Whether you're paying per visit or you enroll in the Smart Care plan, you will always know that you're getting exceptional care at affordable prices. At Grace Point, there's no long wait times. In the waiting room. They just don't do their business that way. They understand that if you're sick, you want to be able to go to your primary care provider. And frankly, one of the reasons I love talking about Grace Point, one of the reasons I'm proud to be a patient of Grace Point is that I don't have to wait. And it was so frustrating to call when you're sick and be told that you can't be seen for 3 weeks. Well, winter brings cold and flu season. And if you need to be seen, now's the time to change over to Grace Point Healthcare. They even do house calls when you're feeling so bad that you cannot leave the house. Grace Point treats the whole body in a holistic fashion. They treat naturally whenever they can. Grace Point is a military veteran-owned practice, which is very important to me. They just do it the right way. They like to say that they're modern medicine delivered the old-fashioned way, and I'm a testimony to that. 599-6868. That's 599-6868. Located in the heart of Franklin, it's Grace Point Healthcare.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Temporary pause on the tariffs. Divers making progress in the grim work for those D.C. plane crash victims. As Secretary of State Marco Rubio takes over another federal agency, all this and the day's closing money news at 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Oh, yes, that report coming up in about 4 minutes or so. Ken, I don't want to get ahead of this report, but
what you got, Brother Murphy?
How many more are we looking for? Do you know the numbers? The specifics?
55 have been identified. There were 67 victims.
So 12 more.
Yeah, but I don't know how many more remains need to be found.
Right. But still, that's
I should know that.
That's got to be very obviously it's an unimaginable pain that the family members are going through.
Oh yeah.
Just, and just the what ifs. I can't imagine it. I've not experienced a tragic death like that in my immediate family. We all experience some level of tragedy or death, but at some time or another, if you live long enough, you do. But unexpected, passing like that. So I can't even put myself in that position to understand it. But then the what ifs. We're talking 20 seconds prior to landing. 20 seconds. 20 seconds. You're talking about, unless you believe, some of the, theories, conspiracy theories or whatever, that it was an intentional act. That is, God, it gives me goosebumps just to say it. That is in Wichita, Kansas, one air traffic controller saying, hold for just a second, flight 53, whatever it was. Just hold for just a second here. Okay, you're clear for takeoff. That's what that is. That's what it is. The difference between life and death. Garth Brooks sang a song about it, right? You never get an opportunity to see what could have happened to you in a negative way based on things that you probably don't like it. You know, the guy cuts you off in traffic, and you're like, you big jerk, you cut me off in traffic, and you have no idea that 2 minutes from now you were going to get hit by an 18-wheeler, but for getting cut off in traffic. You know what I mean? And chasing those rabbit trails, I imagine, would drive you insane, but I also am sympathetic to the idea that it's probably impossible for those family members right now, and it makes it additionally difficult, the idea that some of them they've not found their loved ones yet. There's a sense of at least completion in the idea that we bring them up and we have a proper remembrance and a memorial service, and everybody cries and we engage in whatever sort of burial service you want to engage in. But I just, man, the what ifs. The what ifs. Robert writes in and says, Matt, did you hear that the helicopter did not see the plane or mistake it for something else? I don't know exactly the whole story. You might clear it up. But it did not confirm it saw the plane that saw. Yeah, I mean, the last that I heard it, I honestly did not update myself on the story today. We had so much else going on. So if there was an update yesterday or today, I have not seen it. So I could be dated in this. But the last that I saw, that there was not a confirmation coming back from the helicopter, except that in the initial, like minutes before, there was a request to confirm that they saw the flight incoming, and apparently there was a confirmation originally, but now we are believing that they could not have possibly seen the plane that they were talking about because they hit it. So if it's an unintentional act, if it was a mistake, if it was a horrific and tragic accident, then the idea being that they had to be looking at something else, because if they were looking at that plane, they would have avoided it. It is 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Well, a truce tonight in the looming trade war with Mexico and Canada after last-minute talks just before midnight deadline. Tariffs for both countries going to be paused for 30 days after President Trump says both leaders said their countries are beefing up security of their borders, both Mexico and Canada, to help stem the flow of illegals and fentanyl into the U.S. Officials in D.C. say most of the plane wreckage from last week's deadly mid-air collision has been pulled from the Potomac River. Divers recovered more human remains. 55 crash victims have been positively identified so far. In Philadelphia, investigators locating the black box of the medical transport jet that plunged to the ground, killing 7. The voice recorder found 8 feet deep. All 6 people on board that jet killed, including a mom and her 11-year-old daughter who had just received medical care at nearby Shriners Children's Hospital. Another killed in a car on the ground. President Trump today welcoming the 2024 Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers to the White House, recounting the team's winning season, calling it one of the most riveting comebacks.
Underdogs to champions, they prove the dedication and hard work can transform dreams into reality.
Meant to play that after this story, where workers at the U.S. Agency for International Development, which funds humanitarian efforts, were told to stay home today. The agency's senior leaders ousted, and the Secretary of State says he's taken over.
In a letter to Congress, Secretary of State Marco Rubio says he'll look to reorganize the aid agency to, quote, maximize efficiency and align operations with the national interest. Rubio told reporters USAID has been insubordinate.
When we were in Congress, we couldn't even get answers to basic questions about programs. That will not continue.
Democrats say only Congress can dissolve the agency. Top Senate Democrat Chuck Schumer says Elon Musk and his Doge teams have been given too much power.
An unelected shadow government is conducting a hostile takeover.
That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Metro Center got a crash, 65 northbound, right after Rosa Parks Boulevard. It looks like a crash. Police working Briley Parkway northbound just east of Averett Express Drive. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hello, everyone. Matt Murphy here talking about my friends at the Glock store. You know, February is when you do fun things with your significant other. That loved one in your life, that's right. February is for lovers. What could be more fun than a couple's training session at the Glock store? I can't think of anything. Well, I can think of one thing. But outside of that thing, which they prefer you not to do at the Glock store, you can train with the incredible Shoot 270 indoor shooting room at the Glock store. That's right. February is the month for that perfect date. Book a couple's shooting session at shoot270.com. When you show up, mention my name, Matt Murphy, and it is 2 shooters for the price of 1 shooter. Now, if your partner has never been to Shoot 270, you might have to explain that this isn't some lane range where you might be next to one another. You might be 3 people down from one another. No. Tell them this is a private shooting room with a personal shooting instructor, a professional that will tailor the session to your current level of shooting expertise. Whatever that level is right now, you will both shoot better and more confidently than when you started. There's 2 shooters for the price of 1. Easy for me to say. Book it at shoot270.com. Mention my name all February long. It is my place to train, my place to shoot. And I have it on good authority that if you're doing well and you are popping the target, you're allowed to give a smooch to your significant other. Just don't smooch the instructor. At the Glock store, minutes away from the airport, worth the drive from anywhere. It's the Glock store.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in, and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
It doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
You know, I've been looking a lot on the super text. I look every day. I absolutely love the super text feature. It is a relatively new component to what we do on talk radio, and it's fabulous. Gives you the opportunity to speak truth to power without having to hold on the phone lines. Now, I love telephone calls as well. We've not gone to as many of them today as normal, and I apologize for that. But 615-737-9986, you can get in no waiting right now about any of the subjects on our minds, whether it's immigration or tariffs. Man, oh man, I thought we were going to – now, we had Paul Winkler on for a hot minute. I thought we were talking tariffs for a little bit longer period of time. And then Trump, I mean, he just destroyed – I mean, the political left was telling us over the weekend that Donald Trump was going to drag us into a depression. certainly a recession. Over and over they said so, that your goods were going up, your services were going up, anything, I mean, heck, Chuck Schumer was up there. Where's my Chuck Schumer? I got my Chuck Schumer. Chucky Boy was up there lying to the American people about what the tariff pain would be like.
Let's just take Super Bowl Sunday.
Let's just take Super Bowl Sunday, okay?
It's going to affect beer, okay? Most of it, Corona here, comes from Mexico. It's going to affect your guac.
Okay, so you can't see the video that I'm playing, but Chucky Boy, you can find it on my social media at Matt Murphy Show, but Chucky Boy, Senator Schumer, is holding a Corona tall boy. Is that No, it's a Corona, just a Corona Extra tall boy, not a Corona Light. But it is a tall boy. And he's holding an avocado. You hear what he says there about beer, most of it, like Corona here, from Mexico? Now, I want to be as fair-minded to Chuck Schumer as I possibly can. He is saying that most beer comes from Mexico, right? So he's got visual aids, and he pulls them out, and he's smiling like a mule eating briars. He's very proud of himself for his visual aids, holding up his beer and his avocado.
Okay? It's going to affect beer. Okay? Most of it, Corona here, comes from Mexico.
It's going to affect beer. Most of it, like Corona here, comes from Mexico. Most of our beer comes from Mexico? That is news to me.
Unless he was saying most of the Corona.
Well, all of the Corona comes from Mexico.
But does it really, though? Probably not.
I mean,
it's probably made here in the United States, right? Isn't it?
Is it? I don't know.
I don't either.
Tecate. That's a good Mexican
That's
beer.
a Mexican one.
I like Mexican beer.
Mm-hmm.
I had one, Victoria, I think, last time I was at a Mexican joint. It was called, I'd never heard of it before, but it was a product of Mexico. It was delicious. Absolutely delicious.
Okay? Most of it, Corona here, comes from Mexico. It's going to affect...
No. I'm going to choose to believe he was saying most of the beer comes from Mexico.
I think he was. Yeah.
And that's not true. Most beer that we drink in the United States comes from the United States.
Your guac. Because
avocados, however, I have it on good authority through advertising that avocados are from Mexico.
What is guacamole made of? Avocados, both from Mexico.
Wait, you need to put yourself on camera, sir, if you're going to dance like that.
Avocados from Mexico.
We're probably going to see an avocado ad at the Super Bowl, I would think, right?
I would think so, yeah.
I would imagine so. But, well, avocados are probably going to go up a little bit. And then
Mexico.
All right, so, yeah, there's Chuck Schumer telling us that Democrats can't even lie properly is the entire point. Also, Democrats presented a comedy routine. Once again, they're not performing that well in the first 2 weeks of the Trump administration. We had Hakeem Jeffries announce, because apparently violent political rhetoric is okay again, just so everyone knows. It was off the table for Republicans to say anything that could be potentially at all construed as of a violent nature. Remember, I mean, this all started, when this madman Jared Loughner, I don't like saying his name, and I wish I just hadn't, but the guy that shot Gabrielle Giffords and tried to kill her in Arizona. Remember when he did that, and then liberals pointed to Sarah Palin, a map on Sarah Palin's website that had targeted congressional districts. Obviously, she's talking about targeting at-risk districts for the purpose of overturning those districts and turning them into Republican districts. But Democrats said, oh, my God, she had targets over these districts. And so they blame any little bit of rhetoric that you could be construed or could be construed as violent was off the table. Hakeem Jeffries over the weekend said that it is up to you to take this fight to the streets. And what happened as a result? Well, I don't know that I'm putting two and two together, but I watched a bunch of people over the weekend with Mexican flags waving, destroying cop cars, going after police officers. How in the hell are you making the point that you deserve to be in the United States of America if you're making that point flying the flag of a foreign country? I don't think the point that you're trying to make is getting across. I think most Americans look at that and say, if you love your country so much, your country of origin so much, we're going to give you the opportunity to go on back there. And you can do anything there that you want. You can jump on cop cars all you want. I think it would make a better point for you to say you fly the American flag, right? If you love America so much. And then there was this comedy routine. Did y'all see where the Democrat National Convention was being held and they were trying to vote on leadership? And they voted for this moron, David Hogg, who went through a traumatic experience. I don't begrudge him his traumatic experience. He was at Stoneman Douglas High School in the Parkland shooting, where I think 17 young people lost their lives. And he turned that into advocacy, and he's graduated from college, I suppose, and he is now, well, hell, he's now the vice chair of the Democrat National Committee. So I want you to listen to the rigmarole. This is a minute of rigmarole where they were trying to explain how their voting practices went, but they're trying to vote in such a way where they get a diverse slate of candidates voted on. And so you have to vote on non-binary on first ballot or gender neutral on the second ballot, and then gender specific on a second ballot or a third ballot. And if you go gender specific on the third ballot, then you have to go gender neutral on the second ballot. It's all convoluted. I'm just going to go ahead and bury the lead. You know what they ended up with in leadership? 2 white dudes. After all of...
I don't think they did it right.
After all of this.
We're finding out ways to expedite this. Because of our gender balance provisions on this next ballot, you will be able to vote for 2 candidates of any gender on the next ballot.
Yay. Any gender.
Okay? So on this next ballot, you will be able to vote for 2 candidates of any gender on the next ballot.
On the next ballot. Yes.
If 2 candidates receive...
Wait. He's doing...
I'm going to turn to Helen to clarify this.
We got to turn to Helen. Helen, there was a problem. Helen needed to...
You are in this next ballot where you have 2 votes.
2 votes.
As the chair has said, you may vote for 2 males, 2 females, 2 of any gender.
Oh, okay.
Nope, you can't do that.
No, you can't.
Because we've got to balance. You could vote for 1 of any gender, okay? Or no, non-binary gender, excuse me. It is late.
Does everyone understand so far what we're doing? It gets better.
Rules specify that when we have a gender non-binary candidate or officer, the non-binary individual is counted as neither male nor female, and the remaining 6 offices must be gender balanced. With the results of the previous 4 elections, our elected officers are currently 2 male and 2 female. In order to be gender balanced, we must elect 1 male, 1 female, and 1 person of any gender. So again, this is what we have to do for this vice chair race. We have to elect.
Chris, these are grown people.
We're doomed, man.
These are grown people. Are you following so far?
No.
Because you're sane.
This is what we have to do for this vice chair race.
Guys, Weber's not following it. I know everybody else has got it, so we're going to redo it for Weber.
Of any gender. So again, this is what we have to do for this vice chair race.
Okay.
We have to elect 1 male, 1 female, and 1 person of any gender. To ensure our process accounts for male, female, and non-binary candidates, we conferred with our RBC co-chair, our LGBT caucus co-chair, and others to ensure that the process is inclusive and meets the gender balance requirements in our rules.
They're going to start snapping.
To do this, our process will be slightly different than the one outlined to you earlier this week.
Oh, okay. It's going to change.
I hope you will see that in practice it is simple and transparent.
By the way, this guy's doing this, and on the screen while he's doing this, on the official feed for the Democrat National Convention Committee, whatever, there's all of the pronouns. There's, them, their, her, ze, them, they, zay, zim. Jeez.
The order of balloting is designed to ensure equal access to the ballot, regardless of gender identity. As we must elect a candidate of any gender as well as one male and one female vice chair, we will first ask members to elect a candidate of any gender on the first ballot.
On the first ballot, Chris.
Any candidate, male, female, and non-binary, can be elected on that ballot.
Any candidate.
After a candidate is elected on the first ballot, we'll have one officer of the three. So then we will know which position is filled of the one male, one female, and one vice chair of any gender.
Are you with him so far?
Oh, yeah, I'm perfect.
You're there,
I'm
okay.
right there now.
Our second ballot would also be for a candidate of any gender. Then our third ballot will be the third position that is remaining based on the two results. Either a male candidate if a candidate that is not male has not been elected, or a female candidate if a female has not been elected.
I mean, I am shocked and amazed that Democrats keep getting their asses kicked. I mean,
yeah, it's just funny. I don't see what the problem is.
I mean,
it's so simple. It's taking 15 minutes to explain, but it's very simple.
I think I'm going to save this clip, and anytime someone tries to defend DEI, I'm just going to play this.
I'm going to turn to Helen to clarify this last part.
But Helen, he's screwing it up. And Helen's sitting there, and Helen's like, what are you doing? And she's like poking him, and
I'm going to turn to Helen to clarify this last part.
He's like getting the hell out of there. He's going to have a drink.
You are in this next ballot where you have two votes.
Got it? Okay.
As the chair has said, you may vote for two males, two females, two of any gender. Okay.
I would just remind y'all, all of this resulted in the top two positions for the Democrat National Committee as two straight white dudes. Well, I don't know if David Hogg's straight or not. I mean, I don't want to assume his sexual preferences. Frankly, if I were to assume his sexual preferences, I'd probably be going a different direction. So I think I'm trying to be careful. I'm trying to be careful.
Yeah.
It is 10 minutes until the top of the hour. I hope all of that makes you laugh. There is zero chance that these people are winning anything. Oh, by the way, out of that meeting over the weekend, they also had some other news. They all wish that Joe Biden had stayed on the ballot. More on that coming up in a moment.
Okay.
From noon to 3 and streamed on the Super Talk 99.7 WTN app.
Have you noticed how unreliable things have become these days? Sadly, it is true. Somebody tells you, you know, something will be ready at 4 and it's not ready at 4 and you're tired of that stuff. Well, it's Matt Murphy, and if you've had unreliable vehicle repair, go to Eurofix. Eurofix turns unreliable into reliable, and Eurofix has your vehicle ready when they say that it's going to be ready, when it's really ready. You don't have to stand around waiting, and that is just infuriating. It's really ready when they say it's ready. Eurofix repairs all European cars, beats the dealer time and time again without dealer pricing. It's because dealer repair shops are sadly designed to pay virtually all of the dealership's overhead, and that's a lot of money. Why would you pay for all of that? Eurofix Reliable also means a 3-year nationwide warranty, plus a free loaner car with every repair appointment. Make sure that you call ahead. Loaners are very popular. If you're tired of unreliable repair shops, go to where it is reliable. Go to Aaron Stokes. And Eurofix, family-owned for 26 years. Call 844-EUROFIX. That's 844-EUROFIX, or visit myEurofix.com. Again, myEurofix.com.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in, and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spice and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
It doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice. Oh, no. I feel like my mind has been infected by Democrat propaganda. But my man, Brink Fiddler, has helped me out with it. Brink says that David Hogg wasn't even in the same building at the time of the incident. So apparently he went to the same school, but was not in the building where the tragic mass shooting unfolded that killed 17. I do think that figure is correct. But David Hogg was not even in the same building. So as I said to Brink, my mind has been infected with the liberal propaganda. My apologies. So I just wanted to correct the record on that. Speaking of the record, so I guess we're back to it being okay to smear. I just want to remind everyone, Donald Trump's been president for 2 weeks. 2 weeks today. And the amount that he has been able to accomplish, and I know that liberals hate it, and I don't mind that liberals hate it, but the amount that he's been able to accomplish has been fascinating. And we're just getting warmed up. But it has been less than a year, considerably, just over 6 months since somebody almost took his head off. It was last July, I want to say. For some reason, July 19th comes to my mind. They tried to kill him. They tried to blow his head off.
And they gave lip service for a week or two or three about, oh, we need to cool down the rhetoric. Oh, we need to calm down the temperature. Oh, we need to lower the temperature in the room. And they really never did it. And now it is back up to an 11, to steal the phrase from Spinal Tap, because they don't really care. They don't really care. Speaking of not caring, you will notice that I have spent the last 4 hours not talking about the fact that Beyonce won a Grammy for Best Country Music Album.
Oh, that happened?
It did.
Huh.
I'm told that. I'm told naked people were carousing about.
Yeah, I did see that.
Did you see that?
Holy cow. I thought, no way that's real. Someone's doctored this. No, it was real.
She's just naked.
She's wearing a
fur coat or whatever.
Something. And then looked like a stocking. A clear stocking. I don't know what that was.
My knowledge of popular music, including country music, ended in about 2004. So I've listened to exactly 0 minutes of any of these country music albums, so I have no idea.
Yeah,
I would assume that Beyonce is not worthy. That's what I'm going to assume, because the entire idea was to be woken up that, well, anyway, you can get that somewhere else. Mark Levin's coming up next. We'll be back tomorrow for a new edition. See you.